But
often.
it's just the volume, right?
Yeah, right.
So I was like, could we start at 6 or something? Maybe that would get us to bed at 11 instead of 12.
Yeah. Well, I'm flexible to whatever other folks.
I think it's just set in stone, the 7 o'clock meetings, but you know, it helps people who are at work and don't get home till then.
Yeah.
That's what I assume.
Yeah, but
Seems like all of
there's a lot of, like, wealthy retired people on this panel, like Carol, for example. So they just,
she'd probably like to start early too.
I don't know.
I can tell you that I would like to start early. Charlie Walls.
Probably there's a history for 7 p.m. and
I think so. It seems like with all the committees, all the commissions.
Yeah, it gives people time who do have strict hours to
Yeah,
get home, get a bite to eat, and then go over to the campus to attend the meeting.
yeah, absolutely.
Hi, John Morgan.
Hello, everyone.
Hi,
Hi, John.
John.
Good evening, Jim, Robert, Janet. Can you hear me, Robert?
Yes.
We can. Nice to hear.
Hi, Aaron.
Hi. Erin, is there anyone who we know is not coming?
No, I didn't get anybody saying they can't make it.
Let's see how we do. Hi, Mike.
My weird experience last week, I read a letter to the alumni magazine for Johns Hopkins from Duzla, of all people. I was surprised.
Small world.
Yes,
Thanks, John.
I think it's his spouse, not John, though, who's why he did that. Because usually people sign it, class of so and so, and he didn't.
So I think we have
It's our
everyone
John
here.
Duzla, too.
Yes, Madam Chair, everyone's here.
Okay, great. Since we have a lot on our agenda, I'd like to call this meeting to order. This June 15th, 2023 meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission at 7 p.m. Because we have 3 public hearings scheduled for this evening, I want to take a few minutes to review the process for public hearings. During the public hearing, the applicant will be invited to join as a panelist to present the application, explaining to the commission and others present what is being requested. The applicant or staff will share all application materials on the screen as needed. Comments of town agencies will be read for each application if there are any, and there will be clarifying questions from the commissioners. Then there will be an opportunity for clarifying questions from any attendees. Please raise your hand through the Zoom platform and wait to be called on and unmuted. Next, those who wish to support the application may come forward, and then those who oppose the application may come forward. As this public hearing must be recorded, it is necessary for speakers to identify themselves each time they speak by stating their name and address. The applicant will then have an opportunity to address any questions or concerns raised by the public or commissioners. Once the public hearing is closed, the applicant is free to leave or remain for the balance of the regular meeting, during which the commission will try to reach a decision on each application. Each applicant will be notified in writing as to the decision of this commission and has a right to appeal to Superior Court if desired. Decisions of this meeting are available the day after the meeting by calling the Land Use Department at 203-245-5631 after 9 a.m. All actions taken tonight by the commission will be by roll call. All commissioners and staff will identify themselves for the record before speaking. Seated this evening are members John Duza, John Morgan, Bob O'Connor, Janet Peckinpah, Bob Reinhardt, Charlie Walsh, and myself, Carol Snow. I'd also like to seat Mike Bogda to fill a vacancy.
Thank you.
Staff present this evening is Erin Mannix, Town Planner. The meeting is live streamed on YouTube and will be made available on the town website for viewing. Additionally, I would like to ask that we all treat each other with respect throughout the meeting. And the Town Planner will now read the legal notice. Over to you, Erin. Thank you.
Thanks, Carol. Notice is hereby given that the Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, June 15th, 2023 at 7 p.m. via Zoom online webinar. Attendees may join the webinar through either the webinar link or call-in information below. The webinar ID is 915-8196-6735. The password is 452138. The following applications will be heard. Application 23-18, 1321 Boston Post Road, map 31, lot 32, zone C commercial. The owner is J.L. Bohr Holdings, LLC. Applicant is Phil Doyle of LADA PC. It's a special exception permit per section 6.1.2.2J and coastal site plan review for interior and exterior building alterations to change use from office to veterinarian outpatient clinic and associated site improvements. Application number 23-19 Mungertown Road, map 56, lot 1, zone RU2. Owner is the town of Madison. The applicant is Madison Board of Education. This is a special exception permit for the construction of a new elementary school with associated site improvements. Copies of these applications are available for inspection in the land use office. Further details on how to participate in the webinar are posted on the Town of Madison website, www.madisonct.org. All written correspondence can be submitted to the Land Use Department via email to landuse@madisonct.org. Dial 203-245-5631 for assistance. Dated at Madison, Connecticut, the 17th day of May, 2023. Carol Snow, Chair. This was published once in the source on June 1st and once on June 8th, 2023. And Madam Chair, we do have one additional public hearing that is on the agenda, and that's not in the legal notice because it was opened and immediately continued from our last meeting.
Okay, thank you, Erin. So we'll go ahead and start with that most recent application that you described, which is a continuation from May 18th, 2023. Could I have a motion to continue the public hearing for 23-11 plus coastal site plan for 206 Boston Post Road?
I so motion.
Mike, I got that. Thank you. And a second.
Second.
Janet, and any discussion? All in favor of continuing this public hearing? Great, thank you. So Erin, can you move over the applicants who are here?
Yes, Craig Bernard, whose property owner, is here to present the application. Craig, if you could introduce yourself for the record and let me know if you'd like me to screen share any of the plans or if you're able to do that yourself.
Hello, everyone. Craig Bernard, 206 Boston Post Road. If you can share, that would be great, Erin.
Sure, what would you like first?
Would you
Site
want me
plan?
just to describe the? Sure.
Okay, go ahead.
So currently my building is zoned for commercial use. I'm requesting a special permit for mixed use for residential as well as commercial. My understanding is if I wanted to use the building 100% for residential, I can, but I'm looking for mixed use. I'm going to maintain my office space here as well as have a portion of it to be used for residential. There is, just to let you know, there's no alterations made to the exterior of the building at all.
Share your site plan. Is everyone familiar with where this particular property is located? Almost diagonally southeast, I guess, of Mungertown Road on Boston Post Road, across from the car wash.
Yep.
existing paving in the front and office building with tidal wetlands at the rear of the property.
Okay, so that's Boston Post Road to the upper right, correct?
This is Boston Post Road here.
Right.
Car
Okay.
dealership would be up even further north across the street.
Okay,
And this is set back. There's a one additional office building and this is the shopping plaza, correct?
Yes.
Next door, and this is the bank drive-through.
Mhm.
And
Are there any-
do you need the plan up for your question,
I-
Kara? Sorry.
No, I was just going to ask if Craig wanted to add anything more about the description of the building or the changes to the building or the land.
Not really. It's everything, it would be done inside. I have two entrances currently, and that's going to remain the same. So there's really not much change that's going to take place.
So I'm going to put your floor plan up, Craig, and perhaps you can walk us through specifically what you're doing. You're
Okay.
you're before us for both a special exception and a coastal site plan application. The application was referred to Deep for comments because of the coastal application. One question that was raised in the letter from Deep was whether or not the renovations that you were proposing to the building would constitute a substantial improvement under the floodplain ordinance, requiring the entire structure to be brought into current flood compliance. And I believe the current value of the structure is in the 200,000 range. What are you, have you done a cost analysis of what your renovations will be?
Yeah, really I'm adding a kitchen and that's it. And that's going to be on the first floor. That cost is probably going to be about $40,000.
Okay, I'm gonna screen share your floor plan.
Okay.
And perhaps you can, everybody can see that, right? So this is the first floor
Mm-hmm.
here with the parking lot would be out on your lower screen here with a
Yes.
step porch. One question that I have, which maybe it's just the highlighting that was confusing as far as the delineation of office space versus residential space. The zoning regulations allow for the mixed use by special exception in the zone, but does indicate that the residential use cannot be any more than 200% more than the commercial space. And so I just want to make sure that your connection is it just the second floor that's the residential space and this entire first floor will remain office?
No, so the entire floor upstairs is going to be residential, and the portion that's to the bottom left where it says installation of kitchen.
This kitchen is going to be for the residential use?
Yes.
So what about the kitchen on the existing on the second floor? I guess that's
It's sort of like was a kitchenette, I would call it. It was a sink. There was a refrigerator up there, and that's just going to be moved downstairs.
oh,
Really a
okay.
kitchen currently.
okay. So, okay. One of the benefits, one thing that I think I would benefit for is the existing and proposed delineation between the two so that you can, in order for the commission to approve this, we need to have that calculation to make sure that the residential area is not too large. You may have
Okay.
to toggle back, some of the space if it does exceed that 200%.
Okay.
So
Aaron, I
that
think if you scroll down, we'll see images too of the proposed kitchen.
yes, this is just the layout of that one space of how the kitchen would be. And that's this room here.
Right.
Yes. Yep.
So I guess that's, yeah, so this additional room here is part of the residence?
I'm using that for an office.
Okay,
So it's
So
commercial
perhaps-
use.
Yeah, so
Yes.
perhaps a cleaner floor plan that can clearly show the commission which space is which.
Okay.
And a breakdown of that flood, your cost
Okay, I can do that.
associated, just to verify that. The other points that I just wanted to raise were the need for a B100A application with the health department to verify, because it is a change of use, to verify septic capacity and adequate reserve area. The second would be compliance with the building code and the fire code for change of use, and whether or not there were requirements, separation requirements or sprinkler requirements. Has that been something that you've reached out to those departments for?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I will.
Okay. I would say, aside from other questions that the commission may raise, it would be my recommendation to kind of gather that information and come back to the commission, just to make sure that this is feasible under the parameters of the regulations.
Okay. Will do.
I do have a couple of additional questions.
Sure.
Craig, will you be the resident?
Yes.
Okay, good. And so that'll help clarify the different uses of the different spaces, I think, knowing that
Mhm.
that it's yours, all yours. And then is there still a need for so many parking spaces in front,
No.
but you're just leaving it the way it is?
For now, but that will be a change in the future.
Yeah, because it would be
Yeah.
good to see a reduction in that asphalt.
Totally
out there.
agree.
Thanks. Janet, you have a question?
Yeah, I was same as you, Carol. I was wondering whether Craig was going to be living there. And I also, so is this really going to be a single family home? You're making this into a single family home and carving out a space for your office?
Yes.
Okay.
I imagine we'll be seeing more mixed use like that going forward after our experience with COVID.
So I guess along those lines, just to clarify, you're not converting the entire building into a single family with a home office, are you? You're still looking to maintain that commercial element in case you wanted to rent that office space out or have additional employees?
I could in the future,
'Cause
right?
it
So
would
that's
be
why I want to
different.
maintain, right, it's just, that's my plan for now, but obviously I'd love to have it maintained as a mixed use property in case that changes for the future.
Okay, I was gonna say, it may be a different regulatory process if you wanted to just use it as a single family, convert the whole thing as a single family. Which
Right.
at one point, wasn't it a model home at one point?
I think that was
Years
originally
ago,
what it was.
I think
and
it was, yeah.
I feel
commercial,
like it was
yeah.
as well. Okay.
Yeah.
Any other
Any other questions?
questions?
Just a quick question, Craig,
Yep.
I think you may have answered it. You're gonna be physically living there full time? This is gonna be your primary residence in Madison?
Yes.
When you're
Yes.
finished with this? Okay.
Yep.
So
So-
Craig, I'm sorry. Go
ahead,
ahead,
Erin.
Carol. Go
No,
ahead.
I was going to ask for a motion, so if you had anything else you wanted to add before I do that.
Yeah, I was just gonna just reiterate, the punch list of the additional information that would be beneficial for the commission to make their decision and see if you were agreeable to continuing and providing that and keeping the hearing open.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay.
Just because of statutory timeframes, you would have to grant the commission an extension of 30 days or so for that hearing. And you can do that in writing to me just via email, but just indicating that this evening that you grant that would be sufficient enough for the commission to be able to keep the hearing open for the next
Okay.
meeting.
So could I have a motion that we request from the applicant that we be granted an extension so we can all gather more information?
I provide a motion.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Bob, thank you. And any further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Yes.
Great. Unanimous, thanks. And thank you, Craig, for
Thank
being
you.
willing to come back and share more information with us.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye now.
Okay, second on our agenda, could I have a motion to open the public hearing for 23-18 for 1321 Boston Post Road? This is at the other end of town, the East End, which is also a special exception permit and a coastal site plan review for the veterinarian outpatient clinic. Could I have a motion to open the hearing?
I'll move that.
Bob O'Connor, thanks. And second from
I'll second.
Mike Fugta, thank you. We're all eager to keep this moving along. Aaron, do we have
I
that?
just ask Phil, or the rest of your party, who else would you like, to bring over? Phil?
Aaron, I think right now, Jennifer Lansdowne, who is the veterinarian who's looking to
Yes.
open the
Okay.
the building. And eventually, if there are any questions on drainage or utilities, Bart Beauvais, who was our civil engineer, is online. You can see the screen. I can't. So
Yes, okay, I'll invite him over. Thank you. And then again, if you need me to screen share for you, just let me know what you'd like to pull up. You are welcome to screen share as well.
I think, Aaron, it would be better if you did that. As I mentioned to you, I just came in from a friend's funeral, and so it's just been a little bit hectic here. So if you could do that, that would be great.
Absolutely, Phil. Glad to help. You want the full plan set?
I think I might want to keep it relatively focused. I had emailed you down a couple of color renderings, the existing survey, and then the color rendering of the proposed planting plan, which also shows the grading and all the utilities and everything. So maybe we could focus just on those two.
Okay.
Janet, your hand is up. Do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Madam Chair, I'm just asking that the letter that we received from a resident close by could be read into record.
Yes,
That's a
during
good point.
public
I
comments.
believe we received that today.
Yes, absolutely, Janet. During public comments that can be added.
Okay.
Thanks.
Here, Phil.
Should I start,
Go
Aaron?
ahead. Yes, I'm
Find that?
lost in Gmail here locating your attachments, so that would be great.
If you can't, just go in, use the regular set, and we'll just go to the planting plan. Okay.
Okay,
I'm Phil Doyle. I'm a land planner, and I'm based in Simsbury. We have been working with Jennifer Lansdowne, who has purchased the building at 1321 Boston Post Road for the purpose of establishing a veterinary outpatient clinic, which is under 6.1.2.2J of the regulations under a C zone as a special permit use. You probably all know the property. It's the former recently Power Phone building. It's immediately east of and adjacent to the Dunkin' Donuts
Right.
property on the Post Road.
Mhm.
And it was, I've gone through the municipal land use records, and it looks like it was originally subdivided and developed in the mid-80s. And it was originally an arcade kind of restaurant use. And then it evolved into the Power Phone phone use. It's a narrow site that extends back to Cottage Road, and it has about 48 parking spaces. It's got an on-site septic system. And it's a building that's towards the front is about 6,500 square feet on the first floor, about 3,900 square feet in the basement. And Jennifer's intent is to use the building as a outpatient clinic. Oh, that's great. That's great. Thank you. The where Aaron has the cursor, Boston Post Road is to the right, and the site punctures the entire block. It goes back to Cottage Road, which is on the north side of the site. Boston Post Road is to the south. And this particular plan, we got a hold of one of the Dunkin' Donuts site plans, and we pieced that in so you could see the relationship between the two pieces of property. When the property was originally developed in the mid-'80s, it was all subdivided out. This was part of the property that the Dunkin' Donuts is on. So those two properties, our property and the Dunkin' Donuts property, share a driveway. And it's that driveway right there. We have that all that cross hatching is an easement that is granted to this site for access over and across and through the Dunkin' Donuts site. And it's always been this way. The proposal that we are making is to not change the building whatsoever. The building doesn't move. The building is fixed. We're not proposing any exterior changes to the building. But what this plan does show is we have parking currently along the west side of the building. We have parking along the south side of the building, which is near the road. And there are two building entrances on that south side. That little projection that sticks off the building, that's currently an access that uses stairs, 3 steps to gain access to the door. And then on the west side of the building, right there where there's a light tan color, there is a main doorway and then a stair and a ramp that provides access. The majority of the parking is to the rear of the site, and it's in the rear of the site where the septic system is located. There's about 48 parking spaces on the property. And ultimately, when we start talking about the site plan, we're proposing to reduce the amount of parking to 42 spaces. That's what would be necessary for this particular use as one parking space for every 250 square feet, equal to normal office use. The entire block, we were talking to the Community Advisory Committee the other night, and a question had come up about zoning in this area. And it's interesting, but this entire block is zoned C. Everything around us, all the properties that you can see on this site plan. From Cottage Road further to the north, all of the land in that area is zoned T, the transition zone. So this area has been used for business. Currently, I would also mention there. It seems that there was at one point in the past light poles in the parking lot. Those look like they have been removed at some point. And the lighting that does happen on this property at the moment is all via floodlights that spread light wherever they are needed. But it's all via floodlights mounted to the building. Do you think you could flip to the proposed plan, Erin?
Yes. Do you want the L7 planting plan?
The colored one, yeah, the red color rendered one.
Got it.
Here we go. Yeah, this gives you a good schematic picture of what we are proposing, we're trying to improve the site. The parking up towards the street would remain where it is. The Jennifer, I'd like her to be able to explain her business in a couple of seconds, but before she did, I wanted to give you a brief picture of the property. That southerly entrance that's toward Boston Post Road, that little nib that sticks out, that will be the entrance, if you approve this project, for cats, small animals. And the western entrance will be the entrance for dogs, keeping them separate. Neither entrance at the moment has an acceptable access for handicap. We are proposing to, just to the left of your cursor, Aaron, we are building that right there. That's a new handicap accessible ramp for the dog entrance. And then towards the southern corner of the building, we'll be building a new ramp that does not exist to gain access to for patients who are bringing cats in. We are adding the green that's highlighted on the plan. We're adding islands, taking out pavement, and trying to define the edges of the parking so it becomes safer. There is currently a wide open, I'm sure you've been to the property, and we have pictures that are part of the submission that you've probably looked at. The driveway system that leads to the rear of the site is somewhat unsafe. There's no differentiation between areas that the public would walk and where cars would travel. So we'll be creating an island immediately towards the left as one enters the parking lot to direct cars in that area, and we're adding a sidewalk to get to the rear. And we're removing parking spaces so that we can create an LID method of handling the drainage. The rear parking lot currently sheets towards the east, and we'll be creating a grass area along our eastern property line so that we can capture the water, run it through the lawn area, and then take it into infiltrating catch basins towards the Cottage Road side of the property. And we'll be infiltrating all of the stormwater. Currently, for example, the roof leaders just come to the ground, and roof water, for example, is considered generally clean water by the DEP, but once it hits the ground, becomes dirty. So we'll be tying all the roof leaders into infiltration systems, trying to make sure that we improve the water quality on the site. And by taking the impervious surface that's currently about 93.6%, we'll be dropping that impervious surface down to about 80.5%, so that we can make a significant improvement on the site drainage. You'll notice the darker green that we have shown on these plans, those dark patches. We'll be putting in a hedge along that, primarily along the Cottage Road side of the property, because that's wide open at the moment, and our pavement comes almost to the property line of Cottage Road. So we'd like to build a little bit of a buffer in that area and add some trees in the back of the parking lot. When we met with the Community Advisory Committee the other night, it was suggested that we change the red maple that's shown on two red maples that are shown on this plan. They had suggested that we have trees that branch out further. These would be relatively columnar red maples. So we agreed to that, and I had sent an email to Aaron today saying we might like to use the Nyssa, which is a tree that's a little bit shorter. That's what Community Advisory had suggested, but it flowers bright red during the fall. Jennifer had also mentioned to me that she might like to use magnolia. So over time, we have further conversations with Aaron about that. We might decide to go with maybe at least one, maybe both trees as some form of magnolia. But this gives us the basic layout of the site plan. We'll be adding new lights, ripping out all of the floodlights, and all of the lighting that we'll be installing will be 15-foot dark sky compliant LED downlights, and that will not throw light off the property. Everything's glare shielded, so it's all directed onto the property. And as we mentioned to the Community Advisory Committee the other night, that the lighting can be shut off when the business hours are concluded at the end of the day. But before I go any further, say anything else, I think Jennifer should explain what she's doing. We're asking for a special permit. There are certain conditions under section 615(5) for a veterinary outpatient clinic, that it has to be the business has to be conducted entirely inside a building. The mechanical equipment everything has to be enclosed so that there is no noise from any animal activity. I think that the other conditions include no outside dog runs and no long-term boarding. And I think in all of those conditions, we would propose that this application meets. But I think Jennifer should explain what her intent is.
All right. Hi, nice to meet you all. So I'm Dr. Jennifer Lansdowne from 1321 Boston Post Road. So I am the co-owner of the building, actually with my husband as JL Bore Holdings. And we are hoping to put into that an outpatient veterinary clinic that I co-own with Dr. Carolyn Gross, who's also a veterinarian. I'm a surgery specialist. She's a medicine specialist. And our goal with this facility is we really just are putting in an outpatient, meaning open from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. We'll see emergencies of our own clients during those hours, but we have a very good relationship with Central Hospital for Veterinary Medicine, specifically the emergency clinic in Guilford. So we would send any patient that needs overnight care or, more critical treatment down there. We don't plan to be open on the weekends. We are having no facilities whatsoever. There's not going to be barking dogs out there. No long-term boarding. We are going to offer everything, wellness, dental, outpatient surgery, and that kind of stuff. Full service, high end, just really tailored towards the shoreline. I'm very familiar with this area. I've been here over a decade, and I've actually been looking for the perfect spot for, it feels like many years. It's been at least 2 years. And when this place came up, it's just perfect. It already is inherently pretty soundproofed in there. It's exceptionally well mechanically ventilated. I think the building's attractive. I love the idea of having a cat and a dog totally separated. The cat, if there's any cat people out there, you'll appreciate it. It might be more than the dog people. And it really is a perfect location, easy accessibility, excellent parking. And we just really want to green it up and make it a little prettier and a little less like a big dark parking lot. So that's pretty much our story, and we're happy to be here to apply for this.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you. And you're aware that there's a new dog park nearby as well.
Oh yes, we will sponsor to keep that clean.
Awesome.
Just a few other things. Aaron had mentioned in the last application, working with the health department, we have an existing septic system that was originally designed for the restaurant arcade that's been evaluated. John Bingham, who is with the general contractor, and John may or may not be available tonight, but he has worked with the health department. And I believe we have a health department sign off. The change we have made is we're taking out, for the health department, we're taking out the grease trap that was necessary for the restaurant, and we'll be replacing that with a 3,000-gallon septic tank. There's no changes to the water system. The existing water system is fine. The drainage, I've mentioned, Bart is available for questions, but we're making a vast improvement on the site drainage. I had gone through in the application how we believe this application is consistent with, as you required under section 4. I forget the balance of it, but to grant a special exception, this has to be consistent with the plan of conservation and development and the general plan of development. I believe we've indicated that we feel the application is, and I'm sure I'm missing something, but so that you've got a long agenda, we'll close it at this point.
Thanks so much. Does anyone have any questions?
I did one. The drawing on next where the dog entrance is, how many handicap parking slots do you have you designated for that?
We've spread the parking spaces out. We were by code require 2, and we're putting 1 biased towards the cat end and 1 biased towards the dog end.
Okay, thank you.
You know, the question I have is more of a concern, and it's the lighting. When I look at that location, the properties north of Dunkin' Donuts and to the west of your property are residential. And I know I just would like you to take a look at make sure you turn the lights off at 8 o'clock at night when you close up at night, that they're automatically shut down. But you know, even if we could possibly lower those lights, I think it would be more accessible, more receptive to those individuals along that strip there. And that can become, again, I just would like to ask you to take, you know, if in fact there's a look, you know, 15-foot high lights are interesting, but if there's any way you can light that parking lot a little more neighbor friendly, would appreciate it. And it's not something that would stop me or program. I just think that would be an issue that will show up after the fact.
How should I respond? We talked about this. No, we talked. It's an interesting question because we talked about this the other night at the Community Advisory Committee, who asked very similar question. Not exactly the same words, but almost identical. And we're one of the reasons why I mentioned that we're entirely in a C zone, because there are various cottages nearby that may be seasonally or not seasonally rented, and we're aware of that. So when we were putting the lighting plan together, we were trying to keep the lights at a low level, and we've submitted a lighting plan that's part of the application. And we're with the full cutoff lights, we're able to contain the lighting so that it's focused on the property. It may be possible, and in theory, it could be a condition of approval that we might be able to drop the height of the poles from 15 potentially down to 12 feet. The caution I would add is if you take a look at the rear parking lot, because that's where the residential neighbors that would abut us. We've introduced the green, and we're taking advantage of the green space to insert the lighting. I think one of the things that happens on the property right now is that without any islands in the parking lot, they've resorted in the past to the use of floodlights, which are very obnoxious. So by putting the lights in, we've tried to distribute them so that they are hitting the corners. The middle of the parking lot has the potential to be a little bit darker. And we did the site plans and the approvals for the big medical center that Hartford Healthcare has up in Glastonbury at the Gateway complex. And the Planning and Zoning Commission there had asked similar questions saying, can we keep the light level down? and we did. It was all dark sky compliant as these lights are. But the nurses in the evening going out very quickly complained, and then the commission had us actually increase the lighting. So we can do that if we could lower the lights a bit. But I'd be concerned in the very center of the parking lot that we may end up with somewhat of a dark spot in that area. So it's a balance. We want it to be safe, and we committed to the advisory committee that the lights would not be on after the close of business. So if Jennifer has indicated that her practice would close at 6, if she stays around till 7 or 7:30, I imagine at the latest the lights would be turned off, but the lights can all be set on timers. And the issue is the winter time, right around Christmas time. That's when it's the darkest. So and if the lights are off by 6:30 or 7, or at the worst 7:30 or 8, that's the extreme case. This time of year, the lights would probably never come on. So it's
my reaction is it's a concern. It's my thought. It's obviously been well addressed, and it's certainly. I know the property very well, and I think you've done a marvelous job of improving the property. So I don't mean it as a negative thought. It's just I do know that that's an area that can be a real pain in the neck after the fact. And it looks like you've addressed it, and I certainly would support the fact that you have addressed it. If on the other hand, if we can lower it to 12 feet, I mean or whatever, my answer is yeah, if we do more. But again, it's not a showstopper. It's just a comment that that's one of the areas, that much lighting in that back area. And I agree with you, floodlights are a pain in the neck because they just light up everything.
We've been sensitive to this.
I noticed. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to put my staff report that I did share with both the applicant and the commission into the record, most of which Phil has addressed already. So I'm not going to reread that. I think my only comment that we may not have touched on yet is relating to the coastal site plan, and during construction activities. If Phil, you could just spend a minute and explain your sedimentation and erosion controls during construction activities. You've already touched upon reduction in impervious surface area and introduction of a stormwater management system. But I think this is the only one that you did not yet explain.
Yeah, that's a very good point. You and I must have been reading each other's mind. I was just thinking about the coastal site plan. Because of our location, we're within the coastal management area. There is we've reviewed this with our biologists, soil scientists. There's no coastal landforms anywhere near us. I think the closest tidal wetland is something like 910 feet away. The closest inland wetland is about 400 or so feet away to the northwest, and there are no dune landforms or other coastal resources. The area is entirely developed, so we feel we're I think we're consistent with that in that regard. The plan of conservation and development as well, because we're not disturbing any coastal areas. We're taking an existing property and we're trying to improve it. In terms of the erosion control measures, we've included a site plan that our L3 that shows the erosion control practices that we'll be employing, which will be the silt sacks. We'll be using a man-made tracking pad because we've already got the pavement in place. But if there is any dirt as we are removing pavement, we're using a special heavy-duty plastic crafting pad to clean the vehicle's wheels. And we'll be using silt fence in the rear of the property to against Cottage Grove Road, and on the slightly lower side, it's a very less than 1% to maybe even a less than 1% pitch in some of these areas. We'll be using along the eastern side of the property, our nearest neighbor, silt fence in that area as well. There's a silt fence will be on the inside, and there's a stockade fence actually on the property line. So the development area is entirely contained.
Thank you. Erin, did you have anything you wanted to add from your report?
Nope, we've got it all. Thank you.
And are there any other questions from commissioners or comments?
None for me.
And I see we have a number of attendees here. I don't know if they're here for this application, but this would be the chance, I think, to invite questions or comments.
Yep, just raise your hand and we could allow you to speak. AJ Miller, if you'd like to unmute and identify yourself for the record.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, this is AJ Miller from 109 Cottage Road here in Madison. I'm one of the residents nearby. And we've got a young family. I'm wondering, we talked a little bit about the lighting. Jennifer, I would like to say I love the site plan. We're excited to have that work done here and clean that property up. I guess my concern is is there a possibility for us to put some limits that meet Jennifer's needs in the case that there's a future owner that may want to extend the amount of lighting that they have or the time of the lighting? Could we limit it? Can we limit the application in some way to say, you know, whatever works for Jennifer from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., the property can be lit and it must be shut off at that point in case the property moves on to another owner in the future? Is that something we can do?
That is capable, you know, if that's a condition of the site plan approval that runs with the land and not the particular tenant. If somebody were to propose a change or a change of use, then that would require a return to the commission for a modification of that. So yes, that is within the commission's purview to add that as a specific condition.
Yeah, just for the potential future, the unknown future, I would ask the commission to consider that as a condition. And just more out of curiosity, what is assuming this goes through, what is the timing of construction for the project?
I can answer that. Yeah, as soon as we have approval, it's approximately 6 months till we open. So if we're lucky at the end of this year, but more likely the beginning of next year.
Okay.
And I would say one point on the lighting, I mean, it really simply is just for safety for staff and clients getting out to their cars. I know the owner of the package store and Donahue's have mentioned that it's a pretty dark, kind of scary place back there, and that we're going to need some lighting for their safety. But if there's anything we can do to make it come from the ground up, or, you know, there's no reason why we need to flood that place, you know, ever.
Yeah, no, I have nothing but faith in you, Jennifer. I'm more worried about some future that we're not aware of that may want something different. And if we don't put it in now, then there may be no way for us to control that. So that's it for me. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, no other hands are raised.
Okay, great. If there are no other questions from the commissioners or from the applicant in response to that question, could I have a motion to close the public hearing and we can move to deliberation?
I propose a motion.
Thank you. Second? Bob, thanks. Further discussion? None. All in favor to move to deliberation? Thank you. Erin, I'm sorry, at what point should we have that letter read?
Well, the letter has been entered into the record, but since you've closed the public hearing, you can't read it now.
I just realized as I was saying that.
Jump the gun, but it has officially been, I do believe that in discussions, the information that was included in that letter was discussed and presented, and I think
It was all-
addressed to the
I
commission.
think the issues have been covered. Yeah,
So
Mhm.
I'm comfortable with that also.
thanks.
I do have a draft resolution, if you'd like me to pull that up as a starting point for the commission
That
to
would be
discuss.
great. Any other questions or comments from the commissioners?
None for me.
I think we're all feeling pretty comfortable with the way this is going. So yeah, Aaron, it would be great to share that.
Okay. And I think the only item that is not, would be a potential number 3 with respect to the specific timing of the lighting on the site. That
An
could be-
additional condition about the lighting going forward. Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
How does the, I have a question, or I'd like to discuss the idea of limiting the timing of the lighting. How would that be not phrased, but enforced?
Yeah, I have the same question.
A lot of times conditions like that are complaint based. Enforcement is based off of complaints or concerns from residents. If the hours were kept on, or excuse me, if the lighting was kept on after hours. And we would then respond and have to inspect in the evening.
Okay.
Aaron, who would
Yeah.
actually enforce that? Would that be a police action?
Nope, the zoning enforcement officer.
Okay.
Okay.
So as far as adding a condition about the lighting are there actually 2 different issues? One is making sure the timing is such that the lights are turned off at 8 PM. And then as per AJ Miller's comment, going forward, if there's a change of ownership, should we add a condition or include that the lighting?
Well, applications and approvals run with the land, not a particular owner. So I think that specific language does not need to be added as a condition. However, you could say something such as the site lighting at the rear of the property be installed to be, I think the applicant had proposed 3,000 Kelvin for the temperature of the lighting, and night sky friendly, and maximum of 15 feet in height.
Yep.
Was proposed, and that all lighting be turned off after business hours no later than 8 PM.
Can we put some kind of, I'm just concerned about having a hard 8 PM.
Yeah.
Know what's going to happen if it needs to be on until 8:30, 8:15. I don't want to have phone calls all the time to drive the zoning enforcement officer crazy.
So
Is there some
I think, yeah,
the intent is that, but on occasions it can go past that as deemed necessary.
the information that was presented to the commission indicates that the business will close at 6 PM and is not open on weekends. And so I think a 2-hour buffer is reasonable. If I guess that's really at the discretion of the commission, how much more of a buffer you want to give them for evening or night lighting.
Well, you could say up to a 2-hour buffer for closing time, correct?
What I'm concerned about is the scenario where someone rolls in at 5:59 with a dog that needs surgery, and the only place they can do it is there, and it's going to take 2.5 hours. So now a good deed can be punished. I'm not expecting one time it stays on late to get a call, but trying to give the the owners the ability to not be penalized for missing an 8 o'clock shut-off time. So some kind of grace being put, I don't know how you put that into a regulation. 8
Why don't
o'clock.
you say something? You could say something like, make a good effort to have the
Yeah,
lights.
best effort, something like that.
Good faith.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
faith. Can you
I mean,
do that?
Jennifer did say that it's not an
That-
emergency facility.
That's correct. It's not an emergency facility. It is scheduled business hours. That was presented to the
Understood.
commission, and the applicant did volunteer this time to you. So I think that's comfortable for the commission to be able to impose that as a condition as it was suggested by the applicant. If if business hours or situations change, and the applicant wants to return and extend that time, that's a possibility as well, to return to the commission. But if this was something that is comfortable to them, I think you're safe in adding that time frame. That was something that was discussed at length with the advisory committee, and suggested that time, and again during the public hearing.
Aaron, I'm not sure when Dunkin' Donuts closes and when they shut down.
I don't know what time
I
they
don't either.
close.
That's an adjacent property that is very much, their lights are gonna have the same effect on that same property. I'd be interested to see what they're lighting.
There is no site lighting on that property. Their
Oh.
lighting comes from existing Eversource poles within the right of way. There are no pole lights on the adjacent property.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other concerns?
Nope.
Nope.
Could I have a motion to close deliberations?
I propose a motion.
Thank you.
It's a motion.
And, or have we already?
We need a motion to close deliberations. It's a motion, someone would need to make a motion with conditions to be seconded for discussion.
Thank you. Could I have a motion to approve the application with conditions from someone?
So I so propose.
Would someone like to read the motion? You do need to make a finding in the record regarding the coastal site plan application as well.
Bob Reinhardt, can we ask you to?
Yeah,
read?
I'm just making sure I got it. Okay, there it is.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay,
you.
it's a little small, but I got it.
Oh,
Um,
can-
I got it. No, I can do it. I'm just gonna lean in.
Okay.
Don't be scared by the size of my head. RE 23-18, 1321 Boston Post Road, map 31, lot 32, C zone owner, JL Warre Holdings LLC, applicant Philip Doyle of LADA PC, special exception permit per section 6.1.2.2 J, and coastal site plan review for interior and exterior building alterations to change use from office to veterinary outpatient clinic and associated site improvements. Following draft resolution is offered. The Madison Planning and Zoning Commission approves application number 23-18, 1321 Boston Post Road, map 31, lot 32, C zone, owner JL Bohr Holdings LLC, applicant Philip Doyle of Lada, PC, special exception permit per section 6.1.2.2 J, and coastal site plan review for interior and exterior building alterations to change use from office to veterinary outpatient clinic and associated site improvements as shown on site development plan set by LADA PC land planners entitled Veterinary Outpatient Clinic, 1321 Boston Post Road. Sheets L1 through L10 and D1 with the following conditions. 1, that the zoning enforcement officer be notified at least 48 hours prior to commencement of any construction activity. 2, that all erosion and sedimentation controls be installed prior to any site disturbance and be maintained for the duration of construction activities and until the site is officially stabilized to the satisfaction of the zoning enforcement officer. 3, with regards to the lighting, as Aaron, can you recite that or can I just reference it?
Sure, that the site lighting at the rear of the property be installed at 3,000 Kelvin, be night sky friendly and a maximum of 15 feet in height. And that lighting, all lighting after business hours, be turned off no later than 8 p.m.
Okay, thank you. In the event that changes to the approved plans are required as a result of other agency permitting to support the proposed activity, the Madison Planning and Zoning Commission reserves the right to review said changes and may require modifications of this approval. This approval is made based upon the finding that the proposed use is a permitted use in the district and that the standards, prerequisites, and conditions specified by the regulations have been met. The public convenience and welfare will be substantially served, and the appropriate use of neighboring properties will not be substantially or permanently injured. The proposed use is in accordance with the comprehensive plan. This approval is also made based upon the finding that there will be no adverse impacts anticipated on the coastal resources due to the reduction in impervious area, introduction of stormwater management system, and installation and maintenance of adequate erosion and sedimentation controls during construction activities. This proposal is consistent with the coastal use and resource policies of the state of Connecticut. The effective date of this approval is June 30th, 2023, and upon filing of the certificate of special exception modification on the land records.
Great, thank you, Bob. Could I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, John. Any further discussion?
No,
All
ma'am.
all in favor to approve?
Aye.
Unanimous? Thank you very much. Great.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. We look forward to seeing this facility in place.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great, thanks.
Okay, moving on to our third public hearing. Could I have a motion to open the public hearing for 23-19? That's Mungertown Road, map 56, lot 1, zone RU2, owner Town of Madison, applicant Madison Board of Education. This is a special exception permit for construction of the new elementary school with associated site improvements.
I propose a motion.
I think I'm going to give that one to Janet and the
Okay.
second from Mike. No further discussion. All in favor to open? Great. We have applicants here. Welcome, everyone.
Okay, we need Ryan, right?
Ryan, Will,
Will, yep.
Where's Will? Here he is. Sorry, Will. Who else? I think that's everybody, right? Okay.
Aaron, can you also let in Chris Van Zanten?
Yes, thank you. Okay, you have a large team to introduce.
Yes. Hollywood Squares on steroids. So,
Okay, Graham, should we give it to you to kick it off?
yes, I'll kick it off. So, good evening. My name for the record is Graham Curtis. I live at 60 Devonshire Lane, Madison, Connecticut. I am also very, very happy to be here tonight after a long effort to be here tonight. So I'm thrilled. On my when I'm not on my day job, I'm also the chairman of the elementary school building committee. So we're here tonight for a special exception to build a new elementary school on Mungertown Road across from the Neck River from the existing high school, middle school complex. I assume most people are familiar with the location, but we'll give you more detail. The design team will go into a lot more detail in a few minutes. I just want to hit some of the highlights. This new project will be a new K-5 elementary school, which culminates a 10-year effort by the Madison Board of Education in the town of Madison to consolidate to a 4-school model. Pretty much anybody who's lived in Madison over the last 10 years, hopefully is intimately familiar with this process. And this is the accumulation of a very long effort by many, many people in the town of Madison. The town previously purchased the property and did a land transfer with the Madison Land Trust to facilitate the configuration of the parcel that we have tonight. And those two approvals, I believe, came before this board with positive referrals. The project was approved overwhelmingly at referendum in February of 2022. And we've been working on the design since that time. We're just past design development. We're about to start CDs. So we want to appear before you and present the design plan to you tonight. We have had numerous public outreach meetings previously as part of the design effort, and we had special meetings with the neighbors to elicit their comments and their concerns. And hopefully we've incorporated those concerns satisfactory to them tonight and accumulating. And it was an iterative process, and we're hopefully the plans we present tonight will be satisfactory. With that, I'd like to introduce our very large design team. I won't introduce everyone. I'll let them kind of introduce themselves, but Tecton Architects is the architect. After a long QBS selection process, we selected them to be our architects. They're also working on Brown. We're very happy with the effort. And Will Walter from Benish has got his team. He's worked with, the site, it was a complicated site. There was a lot of restrictions, and I think they've done an exceptional job moving it forward to get to this point. I'll let you be the judge of that. But we look forward to presenting the plan as it currently exists. And I guess I'll turn it over to Justin. Will you take the lead?
Thank you, Graham. Aaron, I have the ability to share my screen, I'm guessing. Okay. Well, good evening, Madam Chair, members of the commission. For the record, Justin Hopkins with Tecton Architects, offices in Hartford, Connecticut. I'm also a registered architect and associate principal and project manager for Tecton. With me from Tecton is Jeff Wazinski, who is the principal in charge of Tecton. He keeps me in line at these meetings, so he will pipe in if I walk the dog too far occasionally. So what I'd like to do is share my screen. Let's see. Okay, so you should see a blue screen, P&Z meeting.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to just give a brief overview. Will and his team from Benish will go into the details of the site, but we thought it was important at least to show the site plan in order to give kind of the high level description of the building. So what you're seeing here is an illustrated site plan with Mungertown Road to the left of the site. If you have any familiarity with the parcel, we slope from west to east down to the wetlands that are associated with the Neck River. As Graham had mentioned, our proposed elementary school is pre-K to 5, consisting of 640 students. So it's 45 students in pre-kindergarten, and the remaining 595 are K to 5. We have two main entrances to the site, one to the south, which contains all of our visitor and staff parking at the south end of the site. As the grade slopes from west to east, we have two levels of the building that are, each level is at the grade. So the majority of our footprint is the main level, and we are at grade at the western portion of the site. And then we have half of this footprint is for the lower level, and that is at the lower portion of the site. So the building volume is positioned in the middle of the site, south to north, in order to separate parent pickup and drop off, which would occur in the southern parking lot. The parent queue would basically utilize the entire access way in order to get as many parent queues as possible. The goal of this, as we've met with the neighbors and as we've talked to the district and our planning, is to make sure that we get all of the cars off the street during pickup and drop off time. So in that similar vein, to the north, we have our bus pickup and drop off. So we have a regatta or fleet style bus parking so that we can stage buses on site and have them have the ability to queue up on site prior to picking up the students. One of the advantages of this layout is we are able to utilize this for overflow parking. So another very important discussion point was to make sure that we can accommodate as much parking as possible for those nights and weekend events when there's a function at the school. So the concept is that when we're not dropping off students via the bus or picking them up via the bus, this area can accommodate 45 additional parking spaces for those events. So again, the overall concept is getting all of the vehicles off of Munger Town Road. When we met with some of the members of the neighborhood, there was also a concern about though there are no sidewalks on Munger Town Road, this plan provides a sidewalk on the parcel. So if students are, not that there's going to be a lot of walkers that are coming to this this school, but if there are people that are running along the road, walking along the road, they have the opportunity to step off of the road, at least on our parcel. Some other amenities, we have some age-appropriate playscapes that I know Ryan will get into in his portion of the presentation. We have a pre-K and K playscape closer to that learning community. And then we have the elementary playscapes as well as a basketball court to the eastern portion of the site. Some natural multi-purpose green spaces, as well as a walking path that we are building in as an alternate, bid alternate, so students can have a place to walk closer to the wooded area. One thing to note in particular is we are incorporating a geothermal well field as part of this project. So we will be utilizing that field in order to provide heating and cooling and basically decarbonize the building. This will be a building that operates on no fossil fuels, and that is an initiative that, as we have worked with the building committee, it has been very important. So quickly, I can give you an overview of the floor plans. The axonometric that you see to the right kind of describes how the building stacks as it goes down the slope of the hill. So the main level consists of the entire building footprint. The lower level, which is at the lower grade, is a partial. It's part of the partial footprint. For the main level, we have our kindergarten and pre-kindergarten classrooms, as well as our grades 1 and 2 on this level, as well as our media center, our STEAM, our visual arts. So the main entrance is here, adjacent to, I hope you can see my cursor as I'm indicating here. Main entrance is directly adjacent to the administrative suite, secure entrance into the building. And as you enter, our specials of kind of our core programmatic elements, I neglected to mention music up at the top of this screen. Those are right at the heart of the building, very close, in close proximity to all the learning communities in the footprint. The areas that are in the darker orange are special education. So part of the strategy is to provide these age-appropriate special education areas close to their individual learning communities, so that we can help support, pull out, push in special education. So the goal is to have those services closer to the classrooms proper. We do have an enclosed outdoor learning area that is adjacent to the media center and within the kindergarten and pre-kindergarten learning communities. So that can be used by any classroom and also the media center. On the lower level is where we have our cafeteria, our gymnasium, and our grades 3, 4, and 5. So again, these are a little bit, these are at the grade level of the lower level. So on each floor, we have a direct access to grade, universal accessibility, etc. This is the south elevation as presented to ACA a few weeks ago. So what you see here is the main entrance where my cursor is. And this really illustrates how the topography works with the building. So the main level is on the second floor at the eastern portion of the site and is a one-story building at the western portion of the site. Some pretty conventional building materials, primarily brick with accents of metal panel and cementitious board, where we're able to introduce a little bit of color. And we have a combination of aluminum storefront and glazing and curtain wall at some of the appropriate areas. North elevation is basically on the other side, or the other side of the building. So this is where our parent pickup and drop off would be. The one distinction that you'll see in the update for the next meeting is we are incorporating per some comments from our building committee of glazing along the corridor opposite of our art classroom to get in some indirect northern light, which is good for those particular places. East elevation, so this is the downslope elevation of the two-story space. Again, primarily brick elevation, where we're popping out some areas to accent the overall facade. Entrances at each learning community, as was shown in the floor plan. The west elevation, so this is the kindergarten, pre-kindergarten, directly adjacent to the playscape. Similar architectural language. We will be providing some exterior canopies out near the playscape along the facade in order to provide some additional shade and shelter for the students in that area. So this was one of our earlier renderings. The one item that I want to highlight here is there has been some considerable discussion of the canopy. We've had, as we've been working with our partners on this project at the building committee, and as well as during the presentation at ACA, there have been some differing opinions on the nature of our entrance canopy. We think we have a good solution that I'll go over in a moment. So this is at the downhill side, looking into the cafeteria. The main entrance is over to the left on the uphill side near pickup and drop off. This is another view from the uphill side, looking down to the two-story space. This was a request from ACA to show a rendering showing the visual impact of the building from the street. So this would be at the south entrance to the building. Another item that I'd like to bring up is the sign, because that was also the subject for discussion at ACA. Overhead bird's eye showing how the volumes kind of knit together here. You'll see the K and pre-K playscape over here to the left, the remainder of the building. One thing that I should mention, and this is probably a good image to indicate this, we, in addition to the geothermal well field, we are providing all of the majority of our air handling units on the interior of the building. So the purpose of this is to free up roof space to allow for a photovoltaic array to exist on most of the roof. So without having significant air handling units, condensing units, that type of those type of equipment, We can provide most of the roof, save for a couple of vents, necessary vents for bathroom ventilation, etc. We can have the building be PV ready as part of the building committee's work. That is an effort that's also ongoing to incorporate that into the building. So that's kind of the partner. When you talk about heat pumps and geothermal wells, the partner to that is providing the electricity via a solar array on the roof in order to power the building, or at least power the heat pumps. The one other thing that I'll note here, so in between meetings, ACA meetings and building committee meetings, we had some feedback from the building committee about the organization or the shape of our canopy, which in this rendering we provided as a flat sloped canopy. As one of the conditions in that ACA had was to bring back to introduce some hierarchy, some visual hierarchy to the main entrance. They requested that we provided a bring back the kind of sloped canopy. So we're trying to knit the two, you know, our owner or our partners on the building committee with one of the recommendations to you as a commission from ACA. So one of the things that we're looking at, and we will be vetting this with the building committee at our meeting on Tuesday, and certainly finalizing it for our next, we understand that this hearing will be continued to the July meeting. We intend to finalize this recommendation, which is bring in some of the language. You may recognize some of the images to the right of the screen at Hammonasset State Beach, trying to draw from some of the vernacular that's in town and use it as an homage in some of our structural systems for the canopy. So we think that this particular solution, which is kind of a marriage of the two concerns, we think we meet the intent of the ACA recommendation, and we have a strong argument with our building committee partners for this canopy system. So stay tuned on that. We'd welcome any feedback or comments as we get into the comment section. The other thing that was brought up at ACA, we had shown two signs, two monument signs at the main entrance to the building. This one represents what I believe is allowable per your signage regulations. And we had also looked at a larger ground-mounted monument sign that incorporates some of the building materials. I believe it was a recommendation from ACA to pursue the larger sign and possibly seek a variance for the sign size. So with that, I believe that concludes the kind of architectural portion of the presentation. I know we have a lot of speakers, so you let me know. Would you like us to take questions on this portion now, or just get through the entire presentation and then take questions at the end?
I'd be happy to go through the entire presentation if other commissioners are okay with that.
Okay, great. Thank you. So Will, I believe it's you. You're muted. It's his first Zoom meeting, so grant him a little clemency here.
Thanks, Justin. For the record, Will Walter, professional engineer with Alfred Bench & Company. And how we're going to present the site is I'm going to go first. I'm going to talk about some of the site layout, as well as stormwater and utilities and erosion control. And then I'm going to turn it over to Ryan Dean, and he's going to talk about landscaping and placemaking on site. And then after that, Chris Van Zanten, who's our professional traffic engineer, will talk about the traffic impacts as a part of this project. So with that, let me share my screen. Can everybody see my screen?
Not yet.
Yeah, there it is.
There you go.
Okay, great. So this is the same rendering that Justin presented. So I'm not going to repeat what he said. I'm just going to highlight a couple things that are important to understand. As he mentioned, there's two curb cuts. The north is going to be the bus drop, and the south is going to be the staff and the parent drop and pickup. So it was important. There's two or three very important things to the building committee. One was the buses, and Justin had mentioned this. We only anticipate 6 to 8 typically at any one time on a typical day, but we are providing enough space up here for all the buses that could possibly be there at once, which is 25. So there will never be buses backed up onto the road during a pickup or drop-off scenario. Another important thing was parking. And the building committee felt very strongly that we needed to maximize the parking. Number one, we need about 125 spaces for staff and visitors, but also during those few nights in the year that you've got community events or school events. So what we're providing is 186 parking spaces down here. And then as Justin had mentioned, we've got about 45 overflow spaces up here. So we've got around 230 spaces, significantly more than is required on a daily basis, but a lot of additional spaces for those few times during the year that is required. The third thing that was very, very important was the parent queue space for drop-off pickup. One of the concerns of the neighbors was we really don't want to have buses, number one, but we don't want to have cars backed up out here during pickup and drop-off. And a previous traffic study was done, and they recommended 15% of the student population for parent queue. So that would be about 100 cars to be able to queue. We did our own initial, our own independent assessment, and Chris will get into this when he goes. We determined that you'll probably need about 90 spaces, but what we're providing in terms of the amount of spaces that the parents can queue up around, as well as the additional spaces that they're going to be able to park up here, we're providing 117 combined spaces. So that is 17 more than was proposed by the previous traffic engineer and 27 more than we feel will be appropriate. So we've worked very, very hard to try to maximize the amount of parent cars that can get into the site. And we're confident that there's not going to be any cars backed up out here during those operations. And again, Chris will speak more to that. Share. I'll talk about a little bit about grading and drainage. So to the right down here is the Neck River, running north-south in the eastern portion of the property. And there's a wetlands that are associated with this, and we've presented before the Wetlands Commission, and we're going to go back before them again in July. But in addition to the wetlands, there's also a floodplain that comes down through here. And as a part of the local floodplain regulations, as well as the state floodplain regulations, we need to get through the local flood ordinance and flood management certificate, which is a state DEP permit. We have to, everywhere below the 500-year floodplain, first of all, we have to set this finished floor elevation a foot above the 500-year floodplain, which means that the building down here, the lower side of the building, is filling within the floodplain. We're required to do that by the regulations. But the local and state regulations require that within the 500-year floodplain, we have to provide zero net fill. And not only zero net fill up to the 500, but for every incremental foot starting at the limit of our disturbance at every incremental foot up to the floodplain, each of those 1 foot increments has to be a 0 net fill. So we are raising the grade at the door elevation. We have to do that. And we're coming back at an ADA grade, so we can't just drop right down at the door entrance. Additionally, this natural grass field, we also wanted to provide that at as high an elevation as we could, so that it's not going to constantly be inundated and be wet after large rainfalls. So it's been a really tricky grading exercise, but we have accomplished that. We've accomplished that 0 net fill for every 1 foot increment as we go all the way up to the floodplain. Now, for stormwater, there's really 3 things that we always have to accomplish with our stormwater design per your regulations, as well as all the municipalities in Connecticut's regulations. And those are, number 1, we have to capture the water off of the bituminous roadways and parking lots, and we have to treat it to provide for water quality. 2, we have to capture all the water on site and detain it and slowly release it back to the wetlands in a manner that reduces the peak flow for the 2-year, 10-year, 25, and 100-year that is currently flowing off the site. And then the third thing is, as a part of our erosion control design, we have to provide temporary erosion controls during construction that ensure that the sediment-laden water, because during construction, it's going to be exposed soils, that we're filtering that water so that anything that flows into the wetlands is going to be treated by our erosion controls. And we believe we've done that as a part of this design. In fact, this design has been reviewed by your town engineer. It was actually designed coordinating with him. We had a pre-application meeting. We presented our concepts and our methodologies. He gave us some feedback. We designed it. He's reviewed it, and he has 3 very, very minor comments that we've already addressed, essentially. So we're confident that our design is in accordance with your regulations. And essentially, the stormwater management facilities consist of several detention basins. On the north, we have an above ground basin. We have the room back here because of the way it's configured with the bus drop. So this is going to be an above ground basin, and then it's going to treat the water, filter the water, and then during large storm events, it's going to go into an outlet control structure and flow underground to a riprap, a level spreader right here, which I'll describe in a second. On the southern side of the facility, we have 2 underground detention systems, which consist of 4.5 feet high plastic half moon chambers, and they sit on approximately 12 inches of crushed stone. So when the water comes in, it filters down through the ground, and then during heavy rain events, it gets into the outlet pipe, and that comes down and then comes to another riprap level spreader right here. So all of the pipe networks end up discharging to 2 level spreaders, which essentially take the water and then allow them to discharge. Instead of a point discharge, it allows it to be discharged over 30 feet through riprap. So it's been designed like that to minimize and prevent erosion into the wetlands. And that's something that we've done in coordination with the town engineer. And the other thing that I'll mention about the stormwater system is we have a large septic system up top here that I'll get into in a second. But it was important that as a part of that septic system design, we had underground infiltration, that as the septic effluent slowly migrated down towards the wetlands, the stormwater is going to be infiltrating and helping to dilute the nitrogen concentration of that septic effluent. So let me move right to that. And I'll talk about the utilities on site. The first thing I want to talk about is the water main extension. So under existing conditions, there's no public water mains out here. And what we're doing is we've designed about a half-mile water main extension. There is a water main up near the middle school, I believe. And so we've worked with Connecticut Water. We've designed an extension of a 12-inch main all the way down Green Hill. It takes a left on Mungertown. Originally, we were going to stop it right here, but the fire marshal is requiring us to put 2 fire hydrants on site, one up here and one way down here by the southern entrance. And essentially, Connecticut Water will not allow a fire protection lateral through the site. That they're requiring that it has to come directly from the main. So we've had to extend the main down to here. And from that main, we have a domestic, a 4-inch line coming in like this, that's going to feed the domestic needs of the project. And then it's not being shown on this because we're still finalizing it, but essentially for fire protection, Connecticut Water Company is requiring us to have a fire tank. So we're going to place that fire tank right up here, and the fire protection lateral will come in like this, to the fire tank, and then coming out of the fire tank will be a pipe that comes down and feeds the fire protection needs of the facility. Justin mentioned this is where the geothermal well field is going to go. And then we also have a septic system, which is a very complex septic system that we're designing. So with a septic system design, there's 3 levels of permitting. Below 2,000 gallons per day, it stays at the local health district. Between 2,000 and 7,500 gallons a day, it's at the local health district and at the Connecticut Department of Public Health. And then above 7,500 gallons a day, it goes to a DEP system, which is what you have at Jack Hand High School. The flows from this building are around, I believe they're around 7,200 gallons a day or 7,100 gallons a day, but they're below the DEP septic system, which is great news because those systems are, they take about 18 months just to design and permit, and they're very, very costly. So we're staying out of deep, which is fantastic. So we've been working with the local health district as well as the Connecticut Department of Public Health. And what we're doing is all the flows come down here. And it was very important for us to site the septic system up here, although I believe we probably could have put it down here. We didn't want to put it close to the wetlands because we were concerned with the nitrogen concentration as the effluent may have migrated underground into the wetlands. Now, keep in mind that the nitrogen concentration is only a concern at DEP. It's nothing that is considered below 7,500 gallons a day. So really, per the regulations, it's not considered. However, we felt it was best management practice to consider that, and we explained that to the Wetlands Commission. So what we're doing is we're placing long linear leaching fields up here at the top of the site. The effluent comes out of the building into a couple of septic tanks, and then a pump station, and it's pumped up here through 3 force mains into these systems up here. And then we're also using, even though it's not required, what's called a air injection technology to pump air into these leaching units, just as another way to make sure this thing is going to operate extremely efficiently. So we've been working on this design with the local health department and the Connecticut Department of Public Health. We've been out there last fall. We did test pits, we did perk tests. It's fully designed. It received, we answered all the comments from the local health department. Now it's being reviewed by the Connecticut Department of Public Health. They were out there when we did the test pits. We've received their comments. In my opinion, they're relatively minor comments. We've been revising the plans, and I anticipate submitting back our revised design, which really doesn't change anything that you see here, probably Monday. So I feel like we're very, very close to an approval for the septic system from both the local health department and the Connecticut Department of Public Health, and that will satisfy all the regulatory agencies that review the septic system. So I know that's probably more information than you wanted, but I felt like it was important just to give you a sense of where we're at with that septic system. And that is going to conclude my presentation. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ryan Dean, who's our registered landscape architect in this project. He'll walk you through some of the placemaking and landscaping.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. All right, so I've got a little bit more of the warm and fuzzies, I think, of the site, being a landscape architect. What we've tried to do throughout the site is to really make a more beach, coastal town feel, more of the grasses and natural features. Also, the concerns with maintenance have been voiced and heard. So the plantings are going to be majorly grasses and large mature trees throughout. One of the main concerns that we wanted to start out by the road was kind of what was going to happen with that buffer. Will just spoke about the sanitary line, but what the biggest part of that was we're going to cut into a lot of the roots. So we were really diligent about trying to get as many trees saved as possible. So we went out in the field and grabbed, we surveyed every individual tree, marked it for, does it survive, does it have to go? And then from there, we kind of worked around that. And within that area along the road, that's where we're housing the little guys' playground. So pre-K playground is nestled up next to the building, but there's a natural berm there that exists that we're going to keep with. I've got a great shot of it here, with some that'll assist kind of containing the kids, but also screening the views from the road. Be great. There we go. So this is kind of that view, with the berm between the road and the playground. There's actually going to be a fence incorporated here. This is that building elevation that shown earlier, but this, kind of run and play, natural feel, and you're thinking lighter colors for the younger kids. And then there's a darker palette of playground materials, which I can show you right now. Here, so this is the okay. So the upper school playground is broken into two portions. It's all some of the newer playground equipment with a darker, more sleek scheme with a white pop, and there's going to be little elements of color within each of these. Some of the hardware maybe we change and make it a little more fun, but the alternate is I apologize, moving a little bit further north. There's going to be a playground or a basketball court with the ability to do Foursquare, things of that nature. But then as an add alternate, there's another playground area that could be added into the playground realm for kind of to split the 1 through 5 children. But the reality is there's plenty of play space, through without fields. Excuse me, I'm just gonna jump to that image. So yeah, with the fields down to the south, we're gonna to southeast, we're gonna have the an upper field with more of a lawn. Hopes to have that as the athletic field. Same with maybe the upper field area, but maybe the lower basin area could be more agrarian, mowed less often, and with hopes to get some wildflower mixes in there. I think moving on, the other thing that we're trying to do to reinforce that shoreline feel, adding some wood elements, that are on the building as well a little bit, but I think having that aesthetic pulling up to the building with the pedestrian lights. So these would be the little 3-footers along the pathways, and then throughout, the pathway lighting on the periphery of the building, or actually closer to the building, would be these shepherd's hooks. And then out in the parking lots, something more efficient, 18, 24-foot height pole. All the flag poles, there's 3 located, at the upper drop-off area. Those are all lit to the town standard flag lighting, downlit, just because it's this pole topper you see on the corner of the screen here. And I think beyond that, the plant list that we got into with the commission, very happy. There was only 2 or 3 plants that we deviated from. And again, these old green trees represent the existing buffer that's going to remain. It was harder to do with some of the lesser vegetation, we'll call it. There's a lot of disease stuff, and so we're trying to replace that with hedgerows of evergreens and things of that nature that are all native. We've got eastern red cedar at the top. Previously, we had a cypress that we omitted, and then at the bottom we've got more. I think it's more of the cedar and all sorts of different plants throughout, and through here, making sure that they've got winter interest for kids. Also, that they're plant they're not going to be toxic. Somebody's going to eat a berry and go right to the emergency room. That's not an option. So, and then also some maybe butterfly garden interest plants along this Nomo seed mix meadow, which has a real opportunity for pollination and learning opportunities for the kids. With that, there's an opportunity for this learning path that kind of roams throughout the lower portion of the site, and that's going to be connected to nature with outdoor classroom opportunities. Which we're just thinking, it's stumps with rocks, a little bit of a canopy of trees, and a place for a class of 12 kids to sit and read, and just kind of get outside and explore. I think with that, I've covered most of the site. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Thanks.
So Will, sorry, this is Justin from Tecton. Will, you mentioned you want to pick it up for traffic here? Great. Thanks, Chris.
It's just, there you go.
Sorry, just trying to figure out. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So, and you can see my screen okay, the rendering?
Yep.
Yes, okay, great, thank you. All right, so thank you for the record. My name is Chris Van Zanten. I'm a senior traffic engineer here at Benesch. I'm a professional engineer and a PTOE. Excited to be here tonight. So one of the first things we kind of dug into when we got involved with the site planning is we took an independent review of the traffic study that was performed by SLR, dated January 13th, 22. And we dug into that, and based on feedback that we got from other meetings, as well as just based on the proximity of the existing school, proximity of the intersection of Green Hill Road and Mungertown Road, the proximity of that intersection to the new school, as well as the existing schools, the Daniel Hands and Polson Middle School, we thought it appropriate to perform new counts at that intersection. And we went out there recently, March 21st, 2023, and performed traffic counts during the morning peak and the afternoon peak. And one of the key findings that we got from that is those were check counts that we wanted to use to verify the data that was collected by the SLR study. So one of the things first thing we did was we compared the data that was collected in that November 2021 study to the data that we collected on March 23rd. And basically what we found was that the peak hour, the peak hour of the elementary school, which is 8 to 9, the volumes were actually lower in March 2023 than those collected in November 2021. And what we also found from those counts was that the elementary school peak hour, which is 8 to 9, is offset from the intersection peak hour, which occurs at 7 to 8. So there's approximately 190 vehicles less at that intersection between 8 to 9 than when compared to the 7 to 8 hour. Here's just a quick comparison here, you can see this is just a screenshot from our latest data. And this is from the study, the latest peak from 8 to 9. So you can see we're much lower between 8 to 9, 317 vehicles through the intersection compared to the 507 at the 7 to 8 hour. So based on that, we looked at the analysis that SLR did, the synchro analysis, capacity analysis, and found everything that they did was appropriate for the analysis, and the capacity analysis summary that they presented in their report is appropriate. And so what we're seeing is basically A's and B's at that intersection. So the northbound approach will operate with a level of service B during the morning with the project, and a level of service B in the afternoon with the project. And in addition, the southbound approach will also operate at a B. Eastbound left and the westbound left, which need to be made across through free-flowing movements, operate at level of service A. That was good news there. And the additional delay at these intersections, these approaches, the northbound and southbound approach, is only 3 seconds additional delay per vehicle, with a maximum queue of one vehicle in the southbound and 2 vehicles in the northbound direction. So we also, not just at the intersection, we took another hard look at the entire study that SLR presented, and we found the analysis to be representative of the conditions that we could expect both with and without the project in the background and build condition.
Chris, this is Justin. Do you mind if I just
Yes.
jump in here? Just
Not at
for everybody that may be watching the meeting, can you describe what an A and B condition is?
Sure. Level of service A is basically the best you can get. It's minimal delays at the approach. There's criteria that the Institute of Transportation Engineers and the Highway Capacity Manual have. Basically, a level of service A represents less than or equal 10 seconds of delay per vehicle at that approach. So if traffic's moving and there's no delays, you're at an A. B's, you're getting a little more delay. You're getting between 10 and 15 seconds of delay per vehicle at a stop control. And then you can see here what the various delays are and what they correspond to letter wise. So A it's basically very similar to the grading scale we have in a school. So A's are good and F's are not so good. So that's the short there. So I meant to show you the picture, but this is that intersection, Green Hill Road at Mungertown Road. You can see the proximity to the Hand High School as well as Polson Middle and our proposed site here. So another thing we did as part of our study is we prepared a supplemental collision analysis within the study area. It's the SLR report. The SLR report focused on focused on several of the intersections within the study area. Basically along Mungertown Road, along Green Hill Road, up to about Cops Road, and there were 22 crashes within the period between the 1st of January 2019 through the 6th of January 2022. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to expand that analysis for the latest data that we have available through the Yukon Crash Repository. What we did is we expanded that to include January 7th, 2022, picking up right where the SLR study left off, and a full year later. Within that time frame, there were 7 additional collisions. All those collisions were property damage only. There were no injuries reported. There were 3 crashes along Green Hill Road between Warpus and Cops Road. And each of those crashes occurred at a different location and a different cause. There were 2 run off the road crashes at different locations and then one rear end at a driveway. So that we didn't see any new trends or anything there as part of our new analysis. And the rest of the remaining 4 crashes, they were spread out throughout the study area.
So there's no recommendation for traffic lights needed at this particular proposed location.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
And also, as part of this analysis, we also looked at the SLR report had analyzed the proposed school driveway as a single driveway with both the buses and the parents and staff all using the same driveway. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to make sure that we were capturing what we're doing here. So we basically broke up, we analyzed the bus driveway and then the parent staff visitor driveway. And here you can see the levels of service that we're seeing at the bus loop. In the morning, we're going to have a level of service C. And that's primarily because we've got a lot of heavy vehicles. It's pretty much exclusively buses, which have a little bit harder of a time accelerating and finding gaps. So they're going to have a little bit, there's going to be a little bit more delay there. But the turns into the site from Mungertown Road for those buses will operate at a level of service A with minimal queuing, but less than one vehicle. There's a lot of room there's a lot of gaps available for traffic to cross Mungertown and enter into the site, making a left turn. We also took a look at the intersection to the south, the proposed south driveway, where the parents, staff, and visitors will enter. There we found that southbound left turn into the site will operate at a level service A, again with minimal queuing, less, one car, and the traffic heading out, that will operate at a level service B, and that will be, maximum queue of about 2 to 3 vehicles during those peak periods when peak morning pickup and drop off. We also at one of our neighbor meetings, we had received comments from a neighbor across the street at 181 Mungertown Road. I'll bring that up here. And they were requesting that we look at potentially offsetting our proposed driveway that's here with their proposed driveway. And we took a really hard look at that, and we understand, what they're looking at there, and we just want to make sure everything's good, but we didn't move forward with that because number one is it's always preferable from an access management standpoint to align driveways across from each other. You get the drivers looking at each other. There's tons of guidance out there for traffic engineers. There's the NCHRP 659 that talks about geometric design of driveways. There's a number of other access management manuals, and this is the standard practice when we have this situation, is to line those driveways. Another thing that kind of factored into that decision to not relocate that driveway was that if we move that driveway up, we had concerns that the headlights, during an evening period, an evening event, those would shine right into that house. So we really didn't want that to be a nuisance there as well. And then lastly, we actually took a look at the operations at this intersection. If vehicles were to take a left out of that driveway, make a left turn out of that driveway during the peak hour, there would still be minimal queuing. There would still be minimal delay for the residents at this residence. We analyzed the existing driveway operates at the threshold right between an A and a B. It's at 9.6 seconds. With our school there, that level of service will go to a level of service C, which is still acceptable, but with just an additional 7 seconds of delay. So it's 7 seconds of additional delay at that intersection, and aligning that makes it much safer. So we thought that was the most important thing, is the safety here. And then as I mentioned earlier, the southbound lefts into the site will be minimal. There's plenty of gaps for traffic to make a left across the opposing traffic stream here. So we did take a hard look at this, and we feel that the best design is what we're showing and most appropriate. Another thing we looked at as part of this, now that we have driveway locations, we looked at the intersection site distance out on Mungertown Road. We have our one driveway up here for the buses. When we have another driveway down here, we have, the prevailing speeds out there, we estimate to be about 32 miles per hour. That's your 85th percentile speed. So that requirement is about a 357-foot sight line. We have well in excess of that. We're looking around 600 feet when measured 15 feet back. There is some opportunity for, let me step back. This driveway will have slightly less than the 357. And the only reason for that is that we're limited by the intersection here. And all traffic that's going to be making a left or a right onto here will have to slow down. So actually the sight line considerations here are less. They're not the 32 miles per hour because vehicles will just be accelerating at this point. So it'll be a lower 85th percentile at this location. So we felt that appropriate, that driveway location appropriate. There is some opportunity for some minor tree trimming here. There's some evergreens over on the east side of Mungertown Road. That would be, within the right of way. We think there's not going to be any issue there, and it will only improve the sight lines there. And then, kind of following up on what Will talked about, I just wanted to kind of touch base a little bit more on the site plan. We performed. What we did is we also wanted to, SLR in their study, they went out and they observed the traffic operations at Jeffrey Elementary, located on Cops Road. We wanted to do the same thing. We wanted to see how, if anything, coming out of the pandemic, if there's been any kind of changes out there, with bus ridership, parent pickup. I have seen a little bit. I'm working on a bunch of schools right now, but we have seen a kind of a downward trend in the number of parents. Parents are starting to put their kids on the bus a little bit more. It is community by community, but some communities are seeing that reduced parent drop off and pickup. So we wanted to just kind of see it firsthand. We didn't want to take what they said, without looking at it. So we were out there on March 16th as well as March 21st during the AM and PM peaks, peak drop off and pickup periods. And when we were out there, we actually saw a max demand. Basically, the max demand occurs in the evening, in the afternoon pickup, and a max demand of 39 vehicles during that afternoon pickup. And that's actually less than what SLR saw. They saw 50, a couple years before. So, and that's where they got that 15% of the enrollment number. Was they took that max demand, that 50 divided by the 325. So that equals 15%. What we saw 39 divided by the 325, we saw 12%. So we said, let's stick with the 15. That gives us a little bit of flexibility and ability to absorb any kind of fluctuations that may happen out there. So based on the enrollment of the 595 students projected for the school, we saw, the minimum, the 15% of the enrollment, that would be 90 spaces for parent pickup and drop off. So as Will mentioned, we have 117 spaces when you take in the excess parking that we're proposing in excess of the staff parking, the 125 spaces for staff and visitors, and then also the queuing along through the lots and providing, on-site queuing potential there. So it's about 1,200 feet of queuing space, which correlates to about 60 queued spaces for parents. So, and one other thing that Will and we didn't mention was that at Jeffrey School, there's only basically about room for four parents to queue and let their children out or to pick up their children during the pickup operations. And granted, actually at Jeffrey, there's the pickup is at you park and then you go get your child, but that may change here. We have a lot more room to process children, to get them, and parents can line up along the sidewalk and be able to process more cars, more than those at Jeffrey. So you're going to get cars in there. They're not going to be sitting there as long as what you're seeing at Jeffrey, and there's plenty more space there. So, and then just lastly, I would say that, the addition of the sidewalk along the frontage is a great addition. It's definitely, it's the great first step in kind of an initiative, the initiative for the safe routes to school and complete streets here in the town. And, we're seeing it at a lot of schools where students are walking more, and it's a great first step here. And I just wanted to kind of highlight that. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Will, and we can answer some questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that wraps up Benish's presentation. So with that, I'll turn it back to Justin or Graham.
Thank you, Will. Graham, I don't know if you want to bring it home or.
No, I just appreciate the very detailed presentation, and we look forward to any comments by the commission and, hearing the public if anyone wants to speak.
I
Great,
had a
thank
question.
you. Yeah, Michael.
I didn't see anything about fencing towards the conservation land. I assume there is some kind. Yeah, could you show it on the map where it is and how it is?
Fencing down by the wetlands?
Yeah. I don't suspect we'll have a problem like Disney had with the gators coming out from the water, but I mean, you have conservation land out there, and I wouldn't want kids wandering off into that area.
Ryan, you can speak. I don't believe we haven't proposed any fencing down there. We want to be able to not have the kids
Maybe
walking.
it's not needed. Maybe it's not needed.
It's typically more disturbance than it's worth, to put something substantial in. So you're going to be drilling a hole or logging, a post hole every 8 feet. They don't typically do it. So, I mean, typically maybe some signage if you're not trying to disturb it on the trees, see that in conservation area, but no, nothing to restrict kids from going out there at all.
It's pretty heavily vegetated, and it's virtually impenetrable. In reality, I think it's
I bet
very
there's-
densely grown.
I bet there's poison ivy there. A good deterrent.
Yeah.
I actually have a question for Will Walter about engineering and about the septic system, which relies on electric pumping systems to get it uphill. What happens in the event of a storm and loss of power?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. One, we have an emergency generator, which is what's going to happen if there's an outage. But the other thing with the pump system is we actually are going to have 3 pumps in there. So if one of the pumps fails, and each of those 3 pumps is probably going to cycle once or twice per day. So if one of those pumps fails, we have backup systems, and then we're going to specify also to have another backup pump on site that can be swapped in, within a matter of hours.
Thanks.
Okay.
Any other
With
questions?
regard to the photo array, solar array on a roof, I assume there's no battery storage.
No, I don't believe there is battery storage. It goes to an inverter, but we'll clarify.
Okay.
Carol, I have a
And
question.
that can be purchased outside the contract through a PPA or some product like that. So the architect and his engineers are making it solar ready, but we'll probably procure that separately. The new
Okay.
IRA Act changes, there's, the new federal regulations are changing that to some extent, but the project budget probably, we're capped by what the referendum amount was, and we're up against a pretty hard cap there, obviously. So we're probably going to do that outside the project budget, similar to what we did on most of the other buildings in town.
And the last question I had was about the air ventilation. I assume there was some kind of regulation, whether it's federal or state mandated, about how much air change out you have to have per the COVID disparities that had occurred years ago. How are we addressing that, or what has to be addressed is my question.
So as part of the air exchanges, we are compelled by ASHRAE and the Connecticut High Performance Building building requirements
Okay,
and the building code to have a certain amount of air changes per hour. We
per
have a
hour, right.
yeah, we have a dedicated outside air system that is moving that air, providing new fresh air to the spaces and ventilating the air during the air exchange.
Per the standard. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
John Morgan, did you have a question?
Yeah, I did, Carol, thanks. That open space in the middle of the building, how is that maintained?
So we are I don't know if Bill McMinn put you onto that question, but no, because we've been discussing it with the facilities department. The goal is to have no maintenance vegetation that's in there. And it's primarily a combination of hardscape with shrubs, no maintenance vegetation that's in there. So the goal is for it to serve as an outdoor classroom. And certainly we are working with the facilities department because of course you don't want to be having to bring a lawnmower through a kindergarten corridor in order to maintain it. So that's the goal, and we'll continue to coordinate with Madison Public Schools on those maintenance requirements. But yeah, we're highly attuned to the maintenance needs of the staff.
So if we get 6 feet of snow, it just spills up and you let it melt?
Yes. If you have 6 feet of snow, it's likely not going to be used as an outdoor classroom. There is stormwater that's out there, so it will melt.
There's drainage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Again, I had the same question, John, that we've lived with an atrium. When atriums seem to be very, very hard to maintain, regardless of how hard you work it, trying to pave them and get rid of everything else. And it seems to me like it would be better to just cover them up and use them as inside space. But that's my own personal opinion. But my other question is, when I think of kindergarten to 5-year-olds, they get outside and they want to run and play and just have big open spaces to play in. And looking at this facility, and maybe it's the space or whatever, we got a lot of parking space, we got a lot of car space, we got a lot of space for buses. We have a couple of formal play facilities. What I didn't see was that informal play space where I think of third graders and fourth graders, they just want to get out and run and play in space. I didn't see it there. I mean, I may be wrong. I just think that just kind of open space for these kids to play in. And I was having a terrible time trying to see where it was. And my other
Sure. Oh, sorry.
And it's just kind of a question. I didn't see a large public meeting space, an auditorium. It's sometimes called an auditorium, but it doesn't have to be a stage or a play. But I didn't see any kind of facility for a band concert, an art, a little band presentation, a little play situation. I didn't see any facility like that. And I know we've been terribly criticized in the past for being very weak in that area with our high school. And there's been a lot of, after the fact complaints that we didn't do that there. I just again, a question, not a question, but just a comment. I didn't see it in the facility, that we didn't have any kind of a meeting space or I use the word auditorium, but I'm not thinking of a theater type of auditorium. And the other, just the open play space for the kids. And maybe we don't have the geography to do that on that facility. I don't know. Those are just my.
I think I can address both of those, and that it would be my responsibility to have made that a little bit more clear in the presentation. So I will share my screen again. That's okay. So I will. Okay, everybody can see my screen, right?
Yes.
So the area that is to the east of the site, these are multi-purpose fields. So you're right, where we have our playscapes, these are more formal playscapes. They are, by their very nature, they're fenced in, just so sometimes these kids like to run. So to be able to have a point of control for the faculty when the students, especially the youngest, are playing in this area, that is fenced in. The whole area to the east is open green space. So this will be maintained as a lawn, more or less. And it's separated into two kind of multi-purpose fields. Now, we haven't shown any line striping or anything because these are not formal fields in nature. But the concept is that this is kind of the free play zone. So that's item number one. Item number two, in our lower level, we have, as I had mentioned, we have our cafeteria in this area, our gymnasium in this area. We have a stage that is situated in between the cafeteria and the gym. We are incorporating a folding partition at each opening so that we can serve a public presentation from the stage in either the gymnasium for, say, an all-school assembly or a larger community, or maybe there's a smaller event or a smaller meeting when there's a game that's going on in the gymnasium. So the cafeteria can be used for that. One of the things for this double height space in the cafeteria is we have a tiered seating area that goes up to the upper level. So this provides some additional informal seating that can serve as the backdrop for that presentation. So what I would consider those two spaces would be for, say, public assemblies, either school assemblies or school presentations, or public assemblies or public presentations. And one of the things that we've tried hard in our organization is the ability to shut down the curriculum areas of the building so that on those particular presentations, we can have the gym and the cafeteria open to the public. With respect to meetings, say PTO meetings, or maybe a BOE meeting, the media center would be able to be a place that would be able to hold that kind of more formal agency meeting, that kind of non-presentation meeting. So I don't know if that answered your direct question, but it certainly wasn't. It was certainly something that I likely glossed over in the presentation. So my apologies for that.
Yeah, and if I would add, one of the things that the Board of Education does when they start a building project like this, they develop an ed spec of all the spaces they need and they want, and our task as a building committee is to implement that program. So that's basically what we've done, and we clearly did not want to. I was actually on the high school building committee, so I remember, and I feel a lot of heat about eliminating some of that program, but that was a major budget bust. So we are actually we're requesting some additional money from the town to move some money around so that we don't have that problem. We don't have to make those same changes that we were forced to make at the high school. So if when it comes time to vote for some additional funding for this project or move some money, hopefully we'll get your vote.
Thanks. Any other questions from commissioners? Aaron, I can't see anymore if we have participants. If we want to spend a little time for the public to ask some questions.
I think that would be a good idea if there are any questions that are brought up this evening that would give the applicant an opportunity to address prior to returning at your next meeting. So if you're okay to open it up for public comments now, we would just ask that everybody who is interested in either speaking do you want to do 4 or just any comment at this point for the benefit of time?
I think any comment at this time.
Sure, if you'd just like to raise your hand and we'll call on you and you can identify yourself for the record. No one's raising their hand.
All quiet. I mean, this will be continued, so there will be another opportunity. I think you guys did a great job then presenting, very thorough and very detailed.
And as Will had indicated, that this is a pending application before Inland Wetlands Agency, which will not be heard again until early July or mid-July on the 10th. And so in case there are any modifications, it would be my recommendation to leave the hearing open so that you could receive any of those modifications. And then, of course, take action following action by the commission or the agency.
That sounds good. Yeah, I think there are a number of issues still outstanding. So could I have a motion then that we continue the public hearing until our July 2023 meeting?
Sure. So moved.
Bob O'Connor, thank you. In a second.
I'll second.
Thanks, Mike. Any further discussion? If not, let's take a vote. All in favor of continuing? Great. Thank you. Thank you again, everyone, and we look
Thank you.
forward to updates.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Thank you. Okay.
All right, moving on to our regular meeting. Everyone's still here.
Basically.
Fourth agenda item is 23-17 8 Campus Drive. And this is a site plan modification to install geothermal wells. Erin, do you
Yes.
want to present?
Well, Felicia Smith-Gulick is here on behalf of the town to walk you through the next two applications, actually, and Bill McMinn, our facilities director, is here as well. These are two fairly straightforward applications. So Felicia, I'll give you the floor. Are you able to screen share, or do you want me to do that for you?
I can screen share, and I'm sorry, I was joining and it cut out. Which one are we going to go over?
Geothermal first.
Geothermal. Okay, so let me pull that one up. Let's see. Hold on. Let me find it. Apologies. Okay. So the geothermal, and let me know if you could see this.
Yes, we can.
Is a fairly
There it is. There it is.
straightforward application. This is at the Town Hall Administration Building. In the back, the Art Barn is here. This is the parking lot, just to orient yourself. And the police station would be up over here, just to orient you. It's the insertion of 21 geothermal wells into that treed area right near the lot area, and then converting what is currently cooling tower into the command for that. It is already a fenced in area. So the only change you will see is about a foot over the fenced in area. You'll see the top of the new building. All of these trees will remain as much as possible during the work. They will be removed, and scrub will be removed to get to these areas to do the drilling and the boring. But the trees will remain as much as possible. And then the refuse from that will be ground into chips for a 4-inch mulch, so that will be weed suppression and all of that. So once these are installed, there will be nothing above ground that you will see aside from just the trees and the mulch. And then just wanted to draw your attention. So this is the Geo Exchange pump house that you'll see. Again, just that foot of the pump house. It's a prefab metal building sticking out. The existing fencing will remain. We're just replacing the building that is currently inside it with the pump house. It is currently a cooling tower. And then there is a erosion control plan here. This site is beyond the 100 feet of the inland wetlands area down to here, but there is extensive erosion control protections, anti-tracking pads, silt fenced dewatering area over here, and all of the standard sort of applications for that type of area for the bale zone and sedimentation. So hopefully that was brief. Trying to keep this long, and I think that's a general overview of the project.
All right, so
Great.
this only supplies heating and cooling for the main admin building?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. So the police department is on their own to do something else separately at some point, I would imagine.
Yes, if they choose to.
Okay.
I just want to pick up on where Felicia left off. The town did go before ACA for comments, really just as a formality. As part of the application process, there were no additional recommendations from the committee, and that was just a favorable recommendation to move forward to the commission.
How deep do they have to go on these wells?
Quite deep. I'm not quite sure off the top of my head, but it's typically, depending on the water table, it can be, you know, a couple hundred or 100 feet.
500.
Yep.
500.
500 feet though?
Yes, 500 is approximately the depth.
I think one of the most immediate concerns, which would be more logistics during construction activities, is the managing of both pedestrian and vehicular access during construction. Pedestrian access to the existing office buildings, as that is an employee entrance on the north side, I guess that is, of the project, and then also pedestrian and emergency and ADA accessibility to the arts barn during construction. So Bill would have to synchronize that event. And then additionally, as this project has moved out of the 100-foot upland review area, the original proposal was to put the wells within the existing parking lot area. And so this is a revised location. Detail needs to be taken during the dewatering process. There can be that can be quite a messy process with the drilling and spoils and dewatering, to make sure that that entire process is well monitored and not within the 100-foot upland review area or interfering with pedestrian access, since dewatering area is located just to the south of the existing pedestrian walkway to the arts barn. So that's just staff's comments. I had no other comments beyond that.
Thanks, Erin.
Sure.
Did you want to share any more of your report? We have a.
I think we pretty much, I think Felicia pretty much covered it. It's a fairly straightforward proposal. Really, and I did share my staff comments with both Felicia and Will earlier today with potential conditions. So I think that's reasonable to work with.
Any other comments or questions? If not, could I have a motion to approve with conditions as per the staff report? Erin, I don't know.
Motion to approve, Carol.
Thank you. In a second,
Second.
any further discussion? All in favor?
Not for me. All in favor.
Great, it's approved. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah, we could just jump to Sampson if you'd like.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So the next proposal is for 3 separate locations for the electric vehicle juice bar charging ports. Before I go into each location and the layout, I just wanted to bring up what they will look like. This is a different provider than what is currently in the town behind the sort of post office area. That's a different provider, but the same general concept. So what these are is each port can provide enough electricity to charge 2 electric vehicles. It will be metered and it will be a chargeable rate, and the income will go back to the town for the operation of it. This is more information on what that looks like. They are in use around different various municipalities in the state of Connecticut. This is the general specifications for it. This is what a typical spacing layout will look like if you were to do 2 full ports, 2 charging ports with 4 parking spaces. They will be striped and they will be marked. It won't be fully green, but it will be stenciled in, so it will be very clear that it is reserved for an electric vehicle charging. There will be 1 ADA accessible parking space for each of the locations. So in one of the locations, I think it does require, in Sampson or Scranton, sorry, I believe, it requires removing an existing parking space to make sure that there's enough space for the ADA compliance, and I can bring that up. So we'll start with the senior center, since this is just the Titan proposal. So right now, as you can see.
Actually, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Felicia. We were going to table the School Street and the Meeting House Lane EV chargers because of the need for historic district review. So we were just going to handle the Scranton tonight, if that's agreeable.
No, yes.
Okay.
So I will move down to Scranton. Memorial Town Hall. Okay, so the Scranton Park Stop and Shop, fairly straightforward. This location is directly across from the plaza that leads into Ashley's Ice Cream and the Madison Coffee Shop in that area. So there will be 2 ports here for a total of 4 electric vehicle port charging stations. And it will be on pedestals. So much like the ones I showed you at the top, they will be on pedestals directly into the ground. We will restore all the areas affected by the installation. Really, it's just as simple as putting, a post into the ground. There's very little soil disturbance or very little trenching required for this site because it is directly next to the current supply of it. 40 feet of trenching to the location, but it will be within this grassy strip. And then it's just, again, restriping and repainting the parking spot areas for that. Eversource will secure the utility incentives and the restoration, and Titan will handle all the software training and setup for it. Here you go. So this is the location. So if you look, this is sort of that plaza with that area for eating and all that. So it's just these locations here. And again, because of providing the ADA compliance, it will go from however many spaces to 1 less to give that access. So I think that's it for that location.
There's an additional site plan as well that was provided by John Matthews that.
You want me to pull that up?
Do you have it? Oh, yeah.
I have it right here. Let me just shrink it so that you can see. There you go. So this is the gazebo area. This is the proposal.
Yeah.
Any questions or comments from the commission?
Yeah, you said there were level 2 chargers. Is that like only 40 kilowatts, or is it closer? Do you know if it's 100 kilowatts?
There are 2 chargers per port. But these are fully, I don't know what level they are, but they'll be able to provide enough power to fully charge an electric vehicle.
Level 2 can go up to 50 amps.
Say it again, Robert.
Level 2 can go up to 50 amps, and I think if they're cranked up to that, they can get you like 40 miles in an hour charge. So they're not the superchargers.
Yeah, they're not the superchargers, right?
Okay. Do you know what kind of chargers they are? Are these CSS chargers, these NACS chargers?
Let me see if I can pull that up. I do know that they are not specific to Tesla, so the Tesla cars will need to have their converter, but they should be fairly straightforward for all other makes and models of vehicles. Let me see.
Yeah, there's adapters for that.
Yes. So level 2, 320.
32 amp, yeah.
Mhm.
The J1772, that's what it is. Okay, yeah, you can get an adapter for that.
Mhm. And the company providing this for the town will be Titan Energy, and they will be the ones that will hold the contract for the software and maintain the machines on behalf of the town of Madison and process all of the payments and Eversource incentives on the behalf of the town of Madison. And Juice Bar will be the actual software and physical port.
So how will how will you be charged for it? I mean, I assume you use a credit card or something like that to pay for it, but you can leave your car there for 6 hours to get fully charged?
Yes, and there's also an app if you choose to do it like that, or you can put in your credit card like you would for a parking meter of some sort. You plug it in and you can leave while it's charging.
Okay.
So, do we have any option on what type of chargers they provide us? Or is this the only thing they provide?
Yes, there were 3 options. The town did select Juice Bar out of those options.
Of the type of charger or?
The company that provides the charger and the software, the proprietary software.
Yeah, so, I mean, if you've read the news or listened to any of the electric vehicle news this week, the standard is going to quickly change to all North American charging standard, NACS. Ford is going with the Tesla system. GM's going with the Tesla system. Many of the suppliers are going to be going to that system. And it's not that it's a supercharger, it's just a type of port that's being used. Does it make sense to make sure that the city, the town is kind of not going to, is kind of future-proofed?
It doesn't, turns out it doesn't matter. Because the type of connectors, you can get adapters for them that come with your vehicle when you purchase it. So even if you have, the town only does the SAE J1772s, you can get an adapter that'll work with your car with that particular port type.
And actually, I'd hope that we could keep adding more and more.
Sure.
Absolutely. The original proposal for this, we did select 12 locations around town. This is being slowly rolled out with the hope that these are very successful and that there's more demand created and that these are being used fairly frequently, in which case they would be a profit to the town, in which case there would be no reason not to continue adding on town property. Right now, this is all town property selections. There's no private properties that we've selected for that ease of being able to control and have full ability to control all of that, the land around it.
Erin,
This
did you
is
want
really, yeah, this is really before you today as a site plan modification as the park is town-owned property, and modifications to the existing parking lot requires site plan approval.
Any other questions?
No, I think this is nice to have.
Great.
Could I have a motion then to approve with the conditions as per staff recommendations?
I propose the motion.
Thanks, Mike. A second?
Second, with enthusiasm. It's good to see the town doing this.
A second.
Any further discussion? All in
Yeah.
favor?
I have yet,
Oh, sorry. Did you want to say something, Charlie?
yeah, I did. I'm absolutely against this proposal. We need those parking spaces, and taking 5 or 6 more parking spaces at the Stop and Shop for chargers for a very small group of individuals in this town is just unacceptable to me and to an awful lot of members of this town. Those are usable parking spaces. They're heavily used. And now to say, well, only 5% or 2% of the residents can use that parking space. There's two of them behind my office that are empty about 90% of the time, and every once in a while somebody goes into them. I absolutely think we're running ahead of the game, and I don't think I'm absolutely against this proposal to take those parking spaces away. They are usable spaces and they are used. And this is, as far as I'm concerned, we're running against something. We still don't have that many electric cars, and I think the people who buy them are responsible to buy their own chargers, not for the town to put their property on that, not to put town property in the charging area. So I am absolutely that adamantly against this. And by the way, I got a lot of my friends that are against it. I'm not one and only. I heard a number of people very much against taking town property and using it for chargers that represent less than 1%. And by the way, I have an electric car on order. And so I'm not against the electric car, but I am against these town property being used as a charging station. And so I'm voting no on this.
Okay, well, I think we'll take it to a vote then. All in favor? And opposed? So one opposed. All right. It passes. And we'll move on to our next item, which is 23-15, coastal site plan for 200 Neck Road.
Yes.
Do we have presenters, Erin?
Yes. Chuck Mandel of Tom Stevens and Associates is here to present.
Good evening. Yep.
You awake, Chuck?
Yeah.
Thanks for your patience.
Actually, I found some of it quite interesting, actually, for future projects. Yeah, we're here today for a coastal site plan and Erin, could you put the map on there? I'm not you knew that was coming. Okay.
I knew it was coming.
There you go. I knew you would be ready for me. So
Exactly.
there you go. So our client would like to, the homeowner would like to put a stone wall outside the floodplain area and about 30 feet from the coastal resource, which is a tidal wetland. There is also a proposed addition that they will be putting on, and we did have a part of the application package. We do have a certificate of zoning compliance for that. So that had been previously approved. That was permit number Z21503. And then you see that as the proposed addition. So there is associated fill that's going to be brought into the project area, approximately about 390 cubic yard. I'm sorry, 340 cubic yards. It's up on top of the plan. When we went out and did some topography, we wanted to ensure that this would not create any flooding or an increased runoff on the neighboring properties. So if you look at the plan, we do have their little X's on the plan, and those show spot grading. So the elevation, we're actually lower. Our property is actually lower than the two adjoining neighbors. So we're not creating any additional runoff onto our neighbors. And we do have a letter also as an exhibit in the application package. We did receive comments from DEEP, and we took those into account. We did move those out of the flood zone, the flood hazard area. So as you see to the top of the page, we're in flood zone X, and just to the north would be the AE zone elevation 12. So we're outside that also. And it's fairly straightforward. If there are any questions, I'll entertain any questions for you if I have the answer.
Thank you, Chuck.
Yep.
Any questions?
So this just complies with the the feedback from the original proposal that was received from the wetlands?
From DEEP, yes.
Yeah,
So
DEEP.
when a retaining wall or berm or something of that nature is located within a special flood hazard area, DEEP, that would meet the definition of a flood and erosion control structure. And typically, DEEP does not support flood and erosion control structures within that area. And so it was the recommendation to relocate and pull that wall outside of, a report came in right before the meeting. And this gave an opportunity for the applicant to redesign. And again, I did share a staff report with you, also shared a staff report, the same report with the applicant. There's a regulatory process for fill or excavation, deposition of material as indicated in the regulations as well, which does give the authority within this 100 to 500 cubic yard range of material, does give the authority to the zoning enforcement officer and the town engineer upon making several findings, which of course we referred back to the design engineer to ensure that these precautions that wouldn't cause any adverse impacts to the neighboring properties. My only other comment was with respect to the ENS controls. There is silt fence shown, but perhaps, you know, at least making sure that there's a wrap up, and it could just be the color of the mapping that I can't see it, you know, on the side property line, that it's not just a straight line across.
Chuck Mandel, I did notice that, and if you look carefully, the silt fence is concurrent with the property line, so it is
So
on
you
there.
are wrapping. That makes sense.
It is wrapping. It's just difficult to see on there. Yes.
And really, that's going to be the biggest, you know, potential risk at this point to the coastal resource is during construction activities, making sure that that silt fence is the limit of construction activity and that there's no stockpiling or materials or you know, equipment staging in that down gradient area. And then just diligent monitoring in case of weather and runoff so that we're not getting that erosion.
Thanks, Erin.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? If not, could I have a motion to approve with conditions as per staff recommendations?
I'll do that.
Thanks. In a second.
Second.
Thanks, Bob. Any further discussion? We'll move to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Aaron, one
Thanks, Chuck.
quick question. We got 2 applications for receipt. Do I have to stay on for those, or?
No, those are, they have been referred to DEEP, and we're
Okay.
just tabling to July to get those comments back.
Okay, so I'll be free to go.
Yep. Enjoy your night.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thanks, Chuck. Take care.
Our next item is 23-24, Opening Hill Road, map 76, lot 6, zone U1. This is for a 3-lot subdivision.
Pat Anderson is the surveyor and will be joining us. He'll be joining us. Here he comes as a panelist.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry, it took me a minute to get back to my computer.
Okay.
For the record, Todd Anderson from Anderson Engineering and Surveying Associates, 1054 Boston Post Road in Guilford. Here representing the Rowley Trust, who owns the property on Opening Hill. Little backstory on this property. It's a property that existed for a few decades now. It was a family property. They are hoping to split this up, sell it off, and settle the estate of the family trust. We did a first split on the property to the rear back last year. That map has been filed this year. He did not have a potential buyer of the property, which is why we didn't file that map sooner. Now he does have prospective buyers for the property, so we have filed that map. So that's why it doesn't show up on the assessor's records. So per the assessor's records, they still treat this whole property as one piece because they have not split out that parcel A yet. So what we are proposing is a fully code compliant subdivision of 3 lots on the remaining portion of the property. There are 2 front lots, 1 rear lot. So that fits the zoning. We have the required square. There is a small area of wetland, which we thought was a potential vernal pool. But our soil scientist, Rich Snarsky, was out there multiple times and looking at that pool and deemed it not a vernal pool at this time. When the Wetlands Commission walked the property, there were tadpoles of wood frogs in the pool, but they are not a regulated species, so that was no concern to them. Everything we are proposing on the property is as far away from the wetlands as we can get it, the potential vernal pool area. We are no less than 80 to 85 feet away from that pool.
Excuse me, could we just pull up the plan?
Oh, yes, please.
Have a visual
Do you-
to go.
Do you have it, Todd, or do you want me to pull it up?
If you could do it, Aaron, please.
Sure, hold on a second.
Do you want to
Thanks.
start out with the site development plan? That shows all the contours and everything. That's just a subdivision map. Can you pull up the site development plan, please?
Is it on here?
I hope so.
I don't think so.
I can pull it up. Hold on. Sorry, I have too many files open here. Just need to zoom in.
There you go.
I can. Can you see that? I mean, this is at least
Yes, that's fine.
further.
So this shows the schematic development of the properties. Of course, when people who buy the lots come in, the lots 2 and 3 to the north there have to go back before the Wetlands Commission for regulated activities for final plans. But this is what we showed as our best case scenario of how to develop the lots with the houses and septic systems fully outside of their 100-foot review. We have a little bit of grading on lot 3 to the rear of the house towards that potential vernal pool. The driveway to lot 2 kind of skirts up in between the 200-foot wetland review areas, and with grading for that driveway about 10 feet into the review areas. That wetland over to the southeast of the property located on parcel A, that is not a vernal pool. That is a wetlands that drains to the southeast through the Indigo Woods subdivision. Lot 1 is fully outside of the 100-foot review. That one will not have to go back before the commission. We are proposing 3 driveways off of Opening Hill. We have full sight lines for those. On the road, it's fairly level site. The lot 2 driveway will be shared with that parcel A first split property to the rear. So that one will be a common drive. Lots 1 and 3 will be individual driveways. All 3 lots have code compliant systems, which have been approved by the health department. And all 3 lots will have private wells as shown on this plan. We have stormwater capture chambers for all 3 houses shown on the plan, in compliance with the zoning regulations. So we fit 100% of the letter of the law for zoning and health, and we have the wetlands approval. So I'm open for any questions.
Thank you. Erin, did you want to add anything? Or are there any questions?
The only other comment, aside from the site development plan, I think that's pretty straightforward. Although you're not approving a site development plan, that's really just showing feasibility. The applicant is proposing, rather than a physical dedication of open space area, to pay a fee in lieu. And Todd and I have had a lovely back and forth.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I forgot. I'm sorry.
Proposing various amounts.
I forgot. I wanted to add my verbiage about that, but I forgot.
But really and that is one of the challenges in doing this. So the regulations allow the commission to accept a fee in lieu as long as it does not exceed 10% of the fair market value of the land prior to the subdivision. So the latest market value that we have of the land included parcel A. However, the total area of that roughly 8 acres was $240,900, which in my opinion is fairly low for a market value. I suggested taking the 10% of that at the $24,900. Todd came back with a proposal to divide that by the 4 lots, and basically with roughly a $60,000 value for each parcel, and then taking the 10% of what would be the 3 lots of $180,000. And so that's where the $18,067.50 came from. But really, it is at the discretion of the commission. We tend to do, the commission has historically done the full 10% of the value. And really, this is not much of a difference between the 2 numbers in all reality. And that money can be paid basically with the number of lots as the denominator. So a fraction of that can be paid at the sale of each of those lots.
Erin, I just wanted to correct your math a little bit. You had you had 24,900. I think it's 24,090.
Oh, 90. It's 090.
And then I was trying to do the other math because I didn't know how you got that number, and it's very close to 7.5%, which would be 18,067.50. Does anyone have any thoughts on what we should charge for a fee in lieu? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, the way I did my math was I took the appraised value per the assessor's records and I divided it by 4 because that amount did not include that parcel A, which we split off. So I basically took the parcel A out, which divided the number by 4, multiplied by 3, which came up with my number. So that's how I did my math. But
was this land,
ultimately, it's up to you guys to come up with a number.
Todd, was this, were there tax incentives or something on this for an open space or farm?
No.
I didn't see any classification on it, but I don't understand as building lot why it's so low.
There was not. And that I think the reval was in 2022, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know why it's so low. I don't know.
It just
but no, it's not classified as forest or open space or anything. There's no tax incentives on the property.
So I mean, I don't really think it's a big
huge amount of money
in any sense. I think the commission just has to kind of just pick, come to the conclusion of some reasonable number that does not exceed the 10%. So we know what the 10% is. And that's someone's suggestion, perhaps.
Any thoughts?
So is 240 what's on the Madison assessors?
Yes,
list?
that's the market value of the land, including the parcel A that was free split essentially before coming before you. So that was the total roughly 8 acres. And this parcel subject to the subdivision is 5.7 acres. So there is a reduction. I'm not denying that. I just don't know what the value is. $60,000 a lot just seems really low, but perhaps maybe it's best to just continue on with what, consistently how you've done this with the assessor's value. And take it for what it is and this time.
Well, because $60,000 for a building lot is obviously too low for that particular area. I mean, that makes very little sense.
That's what the appraised value on the field card is for the land. I think Todd applied logic in eliminating one out of the 4 parcels. So it's not unreasonable.
Yeah, I'll be honest, it's not my money, but I do advocate for my client any chance I get. So
Sure.
ultimately it's up to you guys,
Bob
Split
Reinhardt,
the
would you like
difference if you'd like.
Yeah, I did split the difference, which would be like 21,000. Somewhat arbitrary.
When are the new evaluations going to be done? We know.
Beyond, yeah. I mean, we have to deal with what we have available to us currently.
Okay.
Without a private appraisal for this specific value, it really
Okay.
is at the commission's discretion.
Charlie, any thoughts? I think you're muted, Charlie.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
That's right. Yes, I always have an opinion. I tend to think that we maybe, I would agree to the 18. Yes, we went from 8 acres to 5 acres. The town assessors assessed this bit of property. We can all try to guess what the value of property is in real estate. I mean, I can tell you, the people are going to be able to sell these properties for more than that. I hope. I mean, I hope they don't sell them for, the land doesn't come in at 60,000. I hope the owners do better than that and they come up with better properties, and the town will benefit from that. I mean, I sit with 18, Todd's proposal.
At the 18,000, it's essentially assessing a $6,000 open space fee to each lot.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm reacting to.
That's how that breaks
We can't get an open space from this property, although we are getting some unbuildable areas. We're not turning some of this property over to the land trust or open space, which is what we're doing. I kind of lean toward the 18.
I'm okay with that too. Janet,
Yeah.
how about your thoughts?
Yeah, well, assessments are always lower, so.
It's not the assessed value, the market value. So it is the field card, but it's the appraised value, just to
it's the
clarify that.
appraised?
It's
Okay.
still
Yeah,
low,
Yeah, it's still
No,
low.
It's very low.
but it
for
is
that
the
area.
appraised value, right?
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
it's odd to me. I was surprised.
Yeah, so
when you looked it up.
I'm fine with going with 18.
Everyone else? Okay, good. Could I have a
No.
motion?
Well,
sorry,
first,
John.
A couple things. Well, number
Yeah.
one, the 60 number is just ridiculously low. I mean, I'm tempted to get my checkbook out and run down there right
I
now. There's
know,
no
right?
way anybody's
know.
gonna sell me that land. for
I'm saying that's what
$60,000.
it will sell for.
I know.
So that's not the market value, but that's neither here nor there.
I know, but we don't know
That's
what
true.
it is.
But
Yeah.
that's okay. But the other issue is, I mean, in the plan of conservation development, we talked about the fee in lieu of open space. And if that is one of our priorities, then we ought to pursue that. And given the numbers and given the value of that land, the 10% number is what we ought to, in my opinion, ask for.
Just what'd you say, Carol? Just
Norm
say
is
one.
at 10%. I would
Either
think
way.
we want to stick with that.
I couldn't hear that, Robert. Can you repeat that?
No, just if our norm has been 10%, I'm not quite sure what the rationale is for making an exception in this case.
We
Well,
haven't really had a norm yet, and I think there was another example where we split between 5% and 10%, just to
The-
settle.
There was, yeah.
The difference here is that the field card represents 8 acres prior to a first split off the property. And so the field card has not been updated since parcel A was divided off. And so there's an assumption being made that the value will no longer be $240,000 and that there would be a reduction. What Todd had proposed is just an even split, assuming that the mother lot is now divided into 4 lots. And he just did that, the equivalent on each of the 4 lots. And then multiplied that by the 3 lots that are remaining and took 10% of that. And that's what got the 18.
But John, hold that thought for going forward with the POCD.
Okay.
I think he's also saying.
And that, I couldn't hear you, Charlie.
But when you do that, he still ended up with almost an acre less land. The first lot was more than 25% of the lot of the property. The A lot is actually closer to 30% of the total.
Which varies depending, and the
Yeah.
size of the lot varies depending on wetlands and how
Right.
much buildable area you need to create. So
And
the
if I understand
specifics of that.
the interior lot appears to be to have a very, very low value. I mean, that one's gonna be a tough one to sell. It's a long driveway, it's got a lot of wetlands on it. It's tucked inside. I'd be willing to bet that one's gonna have a tough time making the $60,000 mark. The lot one probably will exceed the 60 mark, because it's directly on Open Hill. Number 2 lot was probably, I don't know, I mean, I'm not an assessor, but
Well, none of us are. I
yeah,
think
that-
which is
If-
why we rely on the assessor's card, you
Right.
know, to determine that. And I think the commission has generally been, and staff has generally recommended a full 10%. The problem is we don't have the current market value of the lot as it exists now. And so that's where the commission could take some liberty in that adjustment.
If I may just interject one thing on Charlie's comment on the value of that interior lot. That interior lot, lot 1 is a kind of valuable lot, but it's a corner lot, which typically does not get as much money as other lots. The other front lot will probably get a good premium, but that interior lot, I have many clients that are looking for lots just like that border state forest on 2 sides. The third side is developed and it's backyard of 2 other lots on another subdivision. Those houses are much further away. That is a very, very private lot. Once you get up in there, it's not steep, it's fairly level. You can do a lot with that lot and it's very private. So that one is actually one of the most premium lots in this whole subdivision. So
Can I make a proposal?
You're not selling your
Can I make
argument
a
yet,
proposal?
Todd, now.
no, I'm just
saying.
saying that I have clients that go after lots like
Sure.
this.
Bob Reinhardt, would you like to even make a
So-
motion?
Do you have a suggestion?
Yes, please. John, I agree with you. We should always charge a 10% regardless of the value. The only value we have is on the book, so speculating on the market value is irrelevant. We have what's on the card. I would say 10%. I agree with the logic that that value is based on the full lot. Taking the 3/4 of it gets you to the 18,000. To me, it makes sense. I just like applying a rule. It's 10%. In this case, there's a modification to it. I would be uncomfortable charging more because we think it's worth more. We don't have that data.
But
So
we know what the whole thing is worth.
I know, but parcel A's already been split off.
Right.
So it's not really worth what's on the card because it's already been split off. At least that's what's been explained. So I'm with you in charging 10% completely.
You make
But
a
where's
good argument, Bob,
parcel A going?
I think.
I
So
hate
just to
giving
clarify,
away the money.
Where's parcel A going?
Parcel A is not subject, so
Yeah.
lots that predate the subdivision regulations and have not gone through a subdivision process are eligible for a first split. And so that is what happened first prior to making application for a subdivision. So now that a first split has been made, any further division of that property is subject to a subdivision application. So only that lot that's remaining is subject to the fee in lieu. There is no open space requirement for a first split. There are, aside from just meeting the regulations, so.
Okay, well, I'm on board with 10% times that amount. Okay.
Okay, so I can write that into the resolution then, the 1806 750.
And could I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, John. A second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Mike. Any further discussion?
No, ma'am.
Favor?
Aye.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Todd.
you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great night.
You
Good
too.
night.
Go
appreciate
get
it,
some
Matt.
sleep at some point.
All right. We have a few more to
Someday.
go.
Someday.
We're almost there. We're moving quick. Well,
Give
we
us
were
a
moving
couple more
quickly.
hours.
So we have the next three applications will be tabled until our July 20th meeting. And that leads us to receipts. 23-26 is the next one I see with 912 Boston Post Road, which is the general's residence. Applying for site plan review modification for installation of an awning over a patio.
And the awning doesn't face the street, it's behind the building, correct?
Yes, and so the property owner is here,
Aaron, can I
Elaine Gustafson. Yes,
just so I can understand, why are we approving the installation of an awning?
It's a good question.
an awning is regulated. The other thing is, although you see this as a single family house, this is a special exception use and it
Because of
is
that.
one property. And so it is subject to site plan approval. A site plan that was approved with the special exception. And
Okay.
I have a feeling that you'll see many of these minor site plan modifications as property owners look to change the buildings or the site from what was originally approved. And that's exactly the case for Elaine and Williams. So Elaine, can you hear us? If you can unmute.
Yes.
Hi,
Hello.
Elaine.
Hi.
Hello.
Welcome.
So,
Yes, I can hear you.
okay, Elaine, do you want to just kind of walk through what I'm happy to share the picture. I mean, this could just be a quick overview, just like we did for the design committee.
Right. The design committee, we really didn't have to do much discussion. It's strictly, it's an awning that covers about 2/3 of our back patio, which is 100% exposed to the sun. And we have been approved by the HOA and went before ARCA and was also approved. It's a simple awning. I'm not sure what to tell you. We gave you all the specifications, and the HOA approved the company and the particular awning as well.
And the color will be
It's a light beige.
consistent with the color of the unit. And it does meet setback requirements, and really there's not much else to
Right, it's
say.
very straightforward and pretty simple.
Any
Um,
questions or comments from the commissioners? Could I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. In a second.
I'll second.
Janet, I'm going to give this one to Janet.
All right, fine.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Right.
Thank you. Thank you, Elaine.
So much.
Sorry to keep
Appreciate
it
Thanks,
up.
Elaine. Thanks for staying on.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay, next, Aaron, we have 23-27 Sampson Rock. This is for the battery powered bus sign.
Yes, and I can walk you through this on behalf of the town, and the formerly known as the Estuary Transit District. It's River Valley Transit now. They are our public transportation service, bus service in town. This is really fairly simple. The bus company is looking to expand some of their signage. They're doing a couple of pilot locations. One is Old Saybrook and one is here in Madison. They're battery powered, on demand, essentially bus signs that they're looking to have at their general depot here. This is where, this is again at Scranton Park. This is the existing gazebo. And really, we're just kind of thinking a location on a black powder coated steel post. The sign itself is battery powered and will give on-demand updates as far as the bus line and estimated timeframes for those waiting for the bus. The initial idea was to post it on an existing pillar of the pavilion, and then when the sign contractor came out, actually recommended to have an independent post. And so we were thinking somewhere in the grass here, so it wasn't in, affecting any of the existing pavers or walkways. Really quite simple, actually.
What's the size?
It's roughly about 1 to 2 feet, the sign.
So it's cellular or it's Wi-Fi to get the information?
It's that's a good question. I know it's battery. They're battery powered, but it must be. It must have
Some way of
must be
acquiring.
cellular, not Wi-Fi.
Okay, so it's cellular.
Right.
And the bus company pays for the cellular network.
The bus company has yes, and there are grant opportunities. They're very talented at receiving funding, believe it or not. So this will be completely funded through River Valley Transit.
Okay.
And I can show you the example of the screen, but it basically, will give you updates as far as traffic, notes like this if there are issues, and what your anticipated time frame is.
It's basically like an app.
Yes.
Yeah.
Could I have a motion to approve?
Oh, I did send this to ACCA as well, and they had no comments.
Okay.
I definitely move forward with that motion.
In a second.
Second.
Thank you, Bob. Any further discussion? All in favor? Oh, sorry, John Morgan, was that a
No,
question?
I was approving.
All in favor? Okay, we're there.
These are easy
Thank
ones.
you. Charlie, are you opposing? I didn't see your hand go up. You're muted.
Unmute Charlie.
Charlie, we can't hear
Charlie,
you.
Can't hear you.
I'm sorry, I just
There you go.
have a major objection to it. I do kind of object to it enough that I'm gonna stand pat, just not vote on it. I'm gonna say no. I don't wanna say no to it, because can I abstain?
Yeah, you can abstain.
Is it allowed to abstain?
Yes.
I just hate to see another sign put in that area of the town, but that's, it's a kind of a busy area. I don't think it's a big value to the town or to the community, but, I'll vote yes for it. You need it, if you want
So
it to
that
be
was
unanimous.
a yes with some objection.
I object to it, but I'm not gonna, I'll rather abstain and vote no. Am I allowed to do that, Aaron?
Motion would likely carry either way,
I was gonna
Charlie.
say,
So
no,
you
no matter
you
what.
vote as you see fit.
Yeah. However you want to record it.
Okay, next item is 23-3508 Old Toll Road. And this is site plan review modification for outdoor dining at the James Madison House Restaurant, which is right next to or near Roberts.
Roberts, yeah.
And Angela McCallum, the restaurant owner and operator is here. Angela, can you hear us?
You need to unmute yourself, Angela.
Sorry.
That's okay. What's anybody else here with you, Angela, or is it just you? I had a few people in the audience. I just want to. Make sure.
Frank and I. Frank's here too.
Okay, Frank's with you. Okay, so
I don't know how to turn on the. Oh, here.
Your camera.
There you go.
Hi guys.
There you are. Okay. So did you want to just quick walk through? I could show the site plan and you can kind of walk the commission through what you're proposing for your outdoor dining, and we can see if there are any questions.
Sounds good.
Okay.
So what we're proposing is we have existing sidewalk / patio already in place where it says existing seating. Just to the left of that, we are looking to add additional 4 sets of tables and chairs to gain a little more business for the restaurant, and also entertain the outside seating aspect for people to be able to sit outside. And that's all we're really looking to do.
And just to orientate everybody, here we've got, this is the parking lot out this way. This is the walkway into Roberts here and the sidewalk. So you've got the main entrance to James Madison and the side entrance here.
Okay.
And this is the existing landscaped bed, and this area has been replaced with paver
Okay.
area. So Angela and they went to ACA this week, and ACA didn't really have any comments really. Understand that there's string patio lighting associated with the dining, and that there's a need for accessibility for the sidewalk, to maintain sidewalk access around the dining, and that your maximum number of seats need to comply with the health code. And it does, from a zoning perspective, the number of seats complies for parking requirements. There's a large parking lot on site.
Sure is.
Huge.
Yep. And there's no outdoor dining or any, real noise generators at this point in time. So you may see umbrellas, for shade structures of that nature, but no additional signage or any other structures out in this area.
What hours are you all open?
Open at 12 o'clock every day, and then the kitchen closes at 9 during the week and 10 o'clock on the weekends.
Nice. Any other questions or comments?
The only comment I had aside from commissioners is that there is a requirement for health department approval. I know you've had preliminary meetings with the health department, but there is a need for a formal B100A application, I believe, to the health department. So that's something that you'll have to complete prior to.
I thought Trent said that we did not have to put any more applications in, because I did that initially. I just have to do the patio extension.
That may be, yes, double check with, I think it may be a communication issue.
Okay, because I did the B100A initially.
And Amanda, as sanitarian being in. So just make sure that before you just make sure you're buttoned up with the health department.
We had a second meeting with Trent, and he approved us for the extra seating with us putting in and installing a grease trap under our sink.
Right. I think the total is 85 seats.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
But
I was not under the impression. Right. I was not under the impression that I had to do another B100A, but I'll definitely double check with him.
Yes. So
because I need to already come down and have all 3 of you guys sign off for the patio extension.
Your liquor license. Right.
Yep.
So just, Trent is out on leave. And so Amanda is in the office. Amanda Rizzo
Okay,
is in the
yep.
office and can
Yep.
assist you with that final bit. So really the only conditions that I recommended from a staff perspective for the approval is that all building egress and ADA accessibility on the sidewalk be maintained around the dining and seating area, that the maximum number of seats remain consistent with the health code at 85 seats, and that any outdoor entertainment requires a separate approval by the commission.
Yep.
And
Yep.
no other recommendations from staff.
Just a quick question, it's just a question, are you planning to put in heating units out there? These outside heating units?
I didn't hear the question.
Are you putting any propane heaters on in the dining area?
I mean, we may have those high hat heaters when it gets cooler. Just a little propane portable heaters.
Yep, those are subject to the fire code, fire
Correct.
building
Sure.
code. So
Yep.
you'd have to run that.
Yeah,
through.
we've been speaking to Sam. Yep.
Any other questions or comments?
No.
Could I have a motion to approve then with conditions?
So moved.
Second?
Second,
Thank you, Janet. Any further discussion? All in favor?
right?
Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks
you.
for your patience. This is a
Sure.
long night.
Yeah, it was a
Thank
long
you
night.
so late.
Although you stay up late
Sorry.
anyways in restaurant life, so
Yeah.
this is nothing.
Very true.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Much.
Okay, the next two items are also being tabled to July 20th. Is that right, Erin?
Yes, there's a request. These are both coastal site plan applications that have been referred to deep with the 35-day referral period. So we would ask to push those out to July.
Okay, great. And next then would be the approval of minutes with Secretary Duza.
June 1st, 2023, Planning and Zoning Meeting. Members present were Snow, Duza, O'Connor, Waltz, Reinhardt, Peckinpah, and Bugda. The motion for approval.
I approve.
Second.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Any comments or edits?
No.
Good to me.
Oh, one quick comment. I'm not sure if it deserves an edit. But the section about the discussion of the POCD, specifically Charlie's concerns about town-owned farmland and the endorsement of sidewalks and the shoreline greenway seemed a little bit unclear. But otherwise, I didn't see anything else. A vote to approve? Aye. All in favor?
Aye.
Yep.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, John, for doing it.
Any remarks? Not from me. Erin, do you have any?
I just have one quick remark and to let you all know that we have the town has promoted Maria Patola, our land use technician, to our land use official position. So she will be serving in the capacity as zoning enforcement officer and inland wetlands officer.
Wow.
Good for her.
So she was appointed by the Board of Selectmen on Monday, and she's still going through her certification process with CASIO, which is the Connecticut Association of Zoning Enforcement Officers. I will remain training her and serving as a CEO as well through this training process. But I think I'll put on for the next meeting a formal appointment as land use official by the acknowledgement by the commission,
Sure.
because that is important in case we have any future enforcement orders that need that clarification, that she does need that appointment from you as well. So
That's
yeah, that's
exciting.
exciting.
That's
We're
great.
one
That's
step
great.
closer to, although we're still all the same people, we are technically one step closer to filling all of our positions, I guess.
Good.
Yeah, it's good news. I'm excited for her.
That's great. Any other comments or questions or anything? If not, could I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All hands go up. Second. Without further discussion, all in favor?
Great, let's go. Thanks,
Thank
Carol.
you, everyone.
You
Good
went
night.
quickly, actually, for
We
15
got a lot done
items.
for you,
I have to
Emmanuel.
give it to you.
Good night.